I guess we are live on the talk on the tube and everywhere we go, we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, each and every single one of my beautiful fans, friends, and how do you call it? Listeners is the correct terminology. Today we're bringing back to the topic of religion, and the topic on the board is juicy, highly debatable, and it's I think the title should have been the burden of truth. Because today the word truth is on trial. What consists to be true, or what consists of the word truth, and that's what is gonna be talked about. The idea behind his life is this, and it's been one thing that has been plaguing my mind for the longest, and is that no one can definitely prove that there is or there isn't a God. It's too hot in here, people, and it is important, it is paramount that we hydrate ourselves so that we can keep ourselves healthy and that we can, be who we ought to be. So, yeah, back to the topic. The idea behind the concept of a God is one thing that has battled humanity or baffled humanity for the longest of time. And even believers comes a time where believers also feel like our idea of a creator is being shaken. That means we need to find proof. That means there's always the need for confirmation that there is a God. There's a constant need to prove that God is alive and well and present. And these are the reason why we have things like miracles. We have things like uh, miracles, and people claim or credit good things to the God. That means they keep the idea or the memory of the God alive and fresh and positive. And that's the reason why people tend to credit only good things to the God. And because people claim that the God itself is only capable of good things, and which is false. You know, that if that was true, then we would have had uh, a more healthy, a more sound world. Let's see what's going on YouTube. People are commenting. It says, "God bless you, my brother. I hear you. I hear you. Ahoy, ahoy." Let's say sign into chat. Let me hop on to YouTube chat real quick before we continue. So yeah, so that is the idea behind why people tend to credit good things to the God, and it's with great intent that people do things the way we do it. The reason why we claim that this person is good, this person is bad, that they can do no wrong in our eyes. And these ideologies are very fairly harmful to have, and we have to dive deeper into. Oh my God, I can't even find the YouTube to join. There you go. We have to dive deeper into these ideologies, to why people only turn to credit the positive things to the God. And with the first question, that no one, and I've said it multiple times, no one can prove or disprove that there is a God. And I think that question is all in itself tend to baffle a lot of believers or people who believe in a God. And okay, okay, I thought YouTube had banned me. No, and help you people who believe in God have problem tackling this question because it challenged their reality. Researchers claim that when you question a believer about the existence of God, it is equivalent to you threatening their life. Their life. And I think it's evident, more evident than false, that it is true that when you question a believer that your God, or tell a believer your God is not real, then they feel like my life is threatened because you question their entire identity. So with that question asked, is it possible for someone who believes in a God to actually prove that there is a God? And when we talk about proof, it is you laying foundations of evidence or mountains of evidence to prove that yes, there is a God. And I, for one, know that it is impossible to prove that there is a God because we lack proof of a God, because we can't lay the proof. As some will put it, as in form of evidence, we can't lay the evidence of there is the existence of a God, other than what we know to be universal truth, that yes, there are people, there are trees, and so on. But then when we look at the other civilizations that exist without the knowledge of a God, they are fine and they thrive in the societies in which they find themselves. So then we ask ourselves, is it a universal truth that there is a God? It is one thing that we have to, there is truth and there is universal truth. So when we talk about true, is it true? Yes, it might be true to me that there is a God, but it is not a universal truth. That means people in other aspects of and walks of life can live a happy life without the knowledge of a God. Bear with me, people. So moving on to the second question, then it asks, or the first question on the board, it says, what counts as evidence for or against God? You know, People who claim that there isn't a God also claim that if there was a God, then why do we have so much trouble in this world, so much evil, you know, in this world? And it is a valid question that people who do not believe in God ask these questions, because the burden of truth is always, or the burden of proof rather, is always on the believer to prove that yes, this is a man-made problem, this is God as intervention. And it's one thing that I think it is it's a gray zone or gray area to what aspects of life is actually something that is being done, implemented by the God, and what aspects in that is human intervention. When you study theology, or people who study the Bible, you find that, or the Quran or any other Abrahamic religion, you find that nothing happens in these books without the human. That the human is as present as the God Himself. When you look at African spirituality, it is something that is more than acknowledge that nothing can happen without a human, which is true. That when God tells its people, go to these lands and do X, Y, and Z, the people are necessary for it to happen. So yes, so that summarizes the first question: what counts as evidence for or against God? The second one says, can someone be saved before their life changes? Many believers always claim or do come out and voice their opinion about being saved after they have had their life change. And it's always funny to me that why is it that people claim, what happened? Did the headset went off? Why do people claim they have been saved only when they decide to change their life? It's one thing that I think is fairly funny to me, and it's like almost one-sided, and with grave intent that we claim that our life have been changed only when we decide to change our life. And I think when someone decides to make alterations to their life, it is a human decision, not a spiritual one. But it is up for debate, and people can feel free to join and speak or voice their opinion about those topics, so that we can have nice conversations about them. So I've also encountered people multiple times this life that might claim, and many Africans too, that might claim that they are spiritual but not religious. That means they might believe in a God, but they do not follow the traditions of, let's say, Christianity or Islam. Hello, Purpose. How do you do? I see you.
Hey, good day to you. I greet you. I'm well, thank you. How are you
Oh,
doing?
wait. I think I didn't have my. Oh, let me. There you go. I think now you can hear me.
I, yeah, I
Yes.
can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Now I can hear you because I didn't switch the audio to my headsets.
All right.
Okay.
I'm well, thank you. How do you do?
I'm also fine.
Oops,
It's
it's
still
very
hot. It's
hot.
still hot to be doing this, but it's necessary.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah. So continuing. So yeah, people claim that they are spiritual. They believe in a creator, but do not necessarily read the Bible or follow the path of a Christian, path laid for Christian. And there's one thing that I want us to dive deep into to understand why do people claim that they are spiritual or they believe in a creator, but don't necessarily like the things that come with the belief. That means Christianity and or Islam. Okay, and the final or the ones on the board is religion about belief, behavior, identity, or all three? And it's one thing that we more than often see that people tend to approve and disapprove certain behavior, or classify one behavior as religious and the other as non-religious. And it's one thing that I think I want to dive deep into. People who do believe can come in and share light on their thought process to what is classified as, let's say, Christian behavior and what is classified as a non-Christian behavior, or what is classified as Islamic behavior and what is not classified as non-Islamic behavior, because I think it's important that we can classify and declassify things that are wrong, or one might claim to be false information. So, purpose. How do you want to participate in the live today? Uh,
Well, I don't know. Do we start in chronological order or we begin in any order, perhaps?
we can be in any other income, and then we can dive in whenever you feel, because I know you've once said you do believe in God, but you necessarily don't like what the belief comes with. That means Christianity and the Bible and the things that are in it. But so, do you want to share light to why you feel like the attaché of the belief is distasteful to you?
Well, we can see so in so many of the societies around the world.
Goodness. Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, we can see this and all around the world. I've never been to Americas or Asia, but I've been to Africa and I've been to Europe. And I would like to say, uh, after learning about human behavior a little bit, we see that Christianity has been violated and it's been used against people. People's lives have been destroyed by it, and it's because of the evil that has it's been corrupted, the whole bit. And today, in today's world, Christians are not following what Jesus Christ taught, and people are not Christ-like. If anybody is different from us, or our beliefs, our perspectives, our opinions, we're not accommodating enough to say, okay, at the right time, God will make things right for you as a person, or you correct what may be wrong in your life, what you perceive is wrong, what you perceive is not correct. And so, hence, having patience to learn and to accept uh, what Jesus Christ taught and to be Christ like is what I believe is the driving core factor of why I feel like Christianity is kind of it's been compromised. Yeah, so people are not Christ like, and that's where the problem lies, really.
So, so what is the definition of being Christ-like? Is there a general term of what Christ-like is? Is there something to follow?
We have the Ten Commandments. They're very plain out and simple. And when you look at the Ten Commandments, they and we can also actually argue that today's human laws of the world are somehow stripped from that. The people of today, or the governments of the world today, copied that from uh, the Ten Commandments, and that's how human beings should live.
You know, the Ten Commandments. I think it's. I don't know how to define it, because I think So you're saying that the Ten Commandments is what is a starting point for someone to be Christ-like.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, as a person who understand the Ten Commandments, I take it in terms of literal knowledge. That means I read, it says, "Thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that," and I'm reading literally. I think then in that case, then no Christian is Christ-like because people do the things that the Ten Commandments forbid or do.
Yes, definitely. Oh, yes, of course they do that, and because the world has been corrupted, our world has been corrupted by
By who?
evil, by of course by people, and of course with the interference of entities. Listen, I did mention this to you earlier on, in the beginning of our lives.
Hmm.
Um, I've been reading a paper recently. It's very you put your tinfoil on, if you will. There's arguments of the Egyptian goddesses, right, or the Egyptian gods and goddesses. There was arguments of Nefertiti and this whole bit of NEP. So if there's the argument of the existence of those things, and there was a great flood in the world, so there should be an existence of a god. And even if we're going to look at it from a logical sense to say, oh, God does not exist, or God exists. You need to understand God is not a genie. God is a spirit, and hence you mentioned earlier that uh, oh, how come if there's God, why does evil happen? Because the world has been corrupted already, and God sits high up on the throne. He's not a human being. He won't come down to earth on our level. He's a spirit. This is one thing we need to understand.
I, for one, will make this argument that the majority of people, if not all humans, are born without the knowledge of a God. You know, I think
Yes,
that is the truth. But then people are taught in ways to implement the God within their lives. You know, and in many cases there is a mismatch between implementation of the God. Okay, uh, it says what it says huge claim. It says the comment says one man says huge claim. How do you sustain that? Is that what you're saying? What claim are you talking about? That the claim that there is no God or there is a God, or if you can how will I say it? Clarify one man what you're trying to ask, because it is true you cannot prove that there is a God. That is factual.
you. Um, it's I don't know. There's a video I will share with you later on. This video will show you a different perspective.
It says yes, people, yes, I said people are born without the knowledge of God. Yes, that is true. You know, any living being on this planet, any trees, from the trees even, when you are born, we are born with everything we need to survive. We are born with the knowledge of breathing from the get-go. No one teaches you how to breathe. You automatically know how to breathe, you know. And even for us, when we open our eyes, we know our eyes can see things, and then we interpret the information that we see with our brain. These things are innate. They are innate to us. But when it comes to the belief of a God, if I lived in a society where we didn't speak English, where we didn't have schools, or there was no religious people around me, the likelihood of me knowing that there is Jesus Christ, there is a Muhammad, there is an Allah, or there is a God is close to zero. That is the evidence that we are born without the knowledge of a God, because it needs to be taught to us.
Yes, I think it is also by divine nature that it is this case is this way. At the beginning of time is when we speak about the rebellion of 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 Satan and the other angels that fell from grace, these entities were, or these beings were, and God, they live outside of time, in an infinity world. But I'm gonna put this down. I feel very hot. My brain is firing up.
I know.
So they lived. You understand? This is crazy.
Yeah,
This kind of heat is, I've never experienced this before. um, the, these beings live out of time. God, the angels, and everything, and Satan, even before he rebelled against God, they were living outside of time, and hence hell was created for Satan and the demons. So God, after when the rebellion was occurring in the heavenly places, uh, Satan knew, because those beings are infinite and they live outside of time. They lived outside of time. They knew what was, because Satan wanted to be like God. And so when Satan fell from grace and came to 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 the second heaven, or to the heaven, to this earth, they God created human beings with the innocence of not knowing. There's a purpose of us why we don't know directly, why we don't see things. But let's wait. We will, with time, we'll be able to see why. And I can actually say this with maybe a full hand. This is a very hard statement to make. With a full chest on my hand, I can say this openly. When God removes His grace from this earth, His mercies and His protection, His hand, we will see what will unroll for us in the world right now, because what we're about to experience soon is unimaginable. Unseen things, things that we've never seen before. So, but hence, when God, when these entities, when Satan rebelled and came to this earth and corrupted the people, so God created us without knowing. And the reason why He created us without knowing was to grow to Him, to show Satan that one day, that even these people that I created did not know. Did not know. Oh my God! Sorry, these people did not know, but they chose me regardless. They chose me is to show Satan that they chose me regardless of them not knowing. They never rebelled, and that's why God always offers us mercy and forgiveness, because we do not know. But Satan knew better, and he rebelled regardless.
you know, hold on. Let me greet one man to the channel. Hello, one man. How do you do? I hope you're fine. I see where your comments were interesting. That's why I asked if you could come, because sometimes it's easier to voice your opinions than to type them. So that's why I offered you, and thank you for do coming up. How do you do?
I'm good, and thank you for bringing me up. I was just listening. I've been listening for a while. I'm like, yeah, yeah, very nice demeanor, and it's nice to listen to you talking. Obviously, I don't agree with most of the things you're saying, but you sound genuine and honest, intellectual honest. I've been listening for a while, and you said a lot of interesting things, and yeah.
I do thank you. I do thank you. The idea is about sharing knowledge and learning instead of rage baiting and trying to, you know, throwing each other off and call each other's name. It's more of genuine conversation, arguments, or debate. So if you are interested in these kind of topics and so on, even though we do disagree, most of the people that I talk to, I disagree with them, but we are here every week trying to speak and disagree more. So I do thank you for coming. But so how do you want to participate? Because you were talking about what I said about no one is born with the knowledge of a God, and do you want to touch more on that?
Yeah, at first I had some objections, but then you clarify what you meant with the usage of the word knowledge, and I agree. I don't believe that humans are born with the explicit conscious and knowledge of knowing that a certain deity exists. So I agree with you on
Hmm.
that point.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. But then moving on. With that said, you as a believer, now I'm accusing you of being a believer. Do you think it is possible for you to prove that there is a God?
Yeah, most definitely.
So
And
how
I
do
mean,
you lay those proof?
that's a very good question, and I think here's with the where you have a some sort of tension between what I call Western philosophy, even though it's not some unified thing, by how Westerners and Western thinkers have view proof and evidence, and how I'm a Muslim. And I don't take your accusation as an accusation. Rather, it's a quiet, bright observation. I'm a Muslim and I do believe in God. And anyway, when it comes to proof, and and this is why I wrote that there is a clear epistemological shift between the Islamic world and the Western world, and how we regard what proof and what evidence is. Um, I think that the only way, if I start from like a neutral position, uh, the only way someone could prove the existence of a metaphysical being is by rational proofs, unless that metaphysical being um, somehow or in some way reveals themselves, or gives you something that's actually tangible, which cannot be explained to have any other origin than the metaphysical. I believe that the only way you could prove the existence of a metaphysical being is by using a rational proof and rational evidence. And proof is really just information that, or anything that, how would I define that? Anything that points to something for being true, right? And obviously, I believe that the Quran and the Islamic tradition is filled with proofs that point to Islam being true, and Allah being the one true God. I don't believe that we have any tangible and natural evidence. There's not a cup of water or some object I can show you that will prove that God exists. Rather, I think at the most extreme of it, it's a battle of the most probable and possible and rational explanation. Um, yeah, that's gonna be my answer.
Uh, I'm muting myself. I do um, agree with you that it is hard to prove, but then I want to ask you a following up question on the same topic. As Muslims, you have something you call the dawah, to bring the message to, let's say, the non-believers. And do correct me if I'm wrong about dawah. Let's say you should find yourself in my land, and how will you then lay forward that the religion that you hold is true?
That's a wonderful question. Well, I would just talk to people. I will talk to you like we're doing right now, face to face. And I want to ask you how you go by your life, and how you think, and how rational. I would just at first I would examine how rational you are. You seem quite rational, so because most of the time people, I don't believe most people out there, and that their intellectual faculties are developed enough to have these type of conversations, because they often go down a road of, if they don't use ad hominem attacks, they just use arguments that are very silly, and I'm not really interested in wasting my time. But I would say I would look and see how rational you are. Then we'll have a normal conversation. I'll ask you, why don't you believe in God? Earlier you posited the problem and the notion of the problem of evil, and the biggest problem with the proponents of that argument is that when they examine God's existence and they posit the argument, what they're doing, whether they do it consciously, unconsciously, knowingly or unknowingly, is that they, as an atheist or an agnostic, put themselves as a judge over God, and they, from that stance, argue for the non-existence of God, because if God were to exist, He wouldn't have done certain things, and that's all based on their presuppositions. And I don't really like when a human and presupposes things like that about God. And if we're gonna have a discussion about deity, whether you believe in that deity or not, um, I don't think a human is in any position to presuppose how a deity should exercise his power, and I think that's a problem a lot of atheists and agnostics fall into, and that's why I don't believe that the problem of evil is a valid argument against the existence of God. Um, But the road I would take is most of the time the things people believe in, and they don't have tangible, factual evidence for that. Most of the things you believe in because of testimonial evidence. The most basic stuff in your life, you haven't experienced any of those things yourself. Rather, you just believe in testimonial evidence.
Mhm.
And I find it really interesting why testimonial evidence is enough for you to believe that the earth is round, that the moon, okay, now you see the moon, um, but that planets you don't see actually exist. Why you could now you're African, I'm African. I'm gonna assume you had never been to South America. Why would you? Why do you believe that South America exists? That's a valid question. You have never seen South America. Even if you can take a plane to a so-called capital called um, um, Brazil, or if a plane claims to have taken you to Rio de Janeiro, you really know. How would you know that you have actually been there? How do you know? You can be very hyper skeptical in this kind of issues, and and at, and at the end of the day, we take and accept testimonial evidence for a lot of things, but somehow, and mostly because of Carl Sagan and his Sagan standard, which I think you are acquainted with, what this man said once upon a time, that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and people have bought into that narrative, and they apply that on God, and I think that's really problematic, because I believe that most answers don't really acquire or require and any extraordinary things. I think that the best answers can be found in mere simplicities.
Um, I wanted to ask you this. I want to say this first and foremost. The things that create what I call as non-believers or society or a group of people who would tend to not believe in a God is first and foremost the language in which the people hold. You know, the language that you speak has to have words and framing for creation story, to teach about what was past, what happened, and what is going to happen in order for people to believe. So if your language doesn't have the framing for this word, and many native languages that you will find in Africa until recently didn't have ways to tell time, like things, what happened before and what's going to happen. Therefore, it was almost impossible to explain to them the creation story. That means they had to invent new words in order to achieve that. So, as a person who is Muslim, if you encounter these people, it will shatter your reality because you can't explain to them in their language how for them to be or to understand your version of Islam. And there comes the part where the colonial aspect of religion kicks in. That means, in order for you to explain into deep understanding, you have to teach them a new language. That means they have to do away with what they have in order to adopt your own, in order to understand what you are saying. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I don't think that's problematic, and I think that goes for a lot of things. The same tribe that would live in a rural area might not have the words in their language to describe advanced mathematics, and I would probably need to teach them some words if they were to do advanced mathematics or study such things. And I don't necessarily believe that that's any that would have a colonial aspect. Rather, it's just a people who have a language which might have been suitable for the things they have been doing for their lives, and but here comes new stuff, and language needs to be developed.
The reason why I say it's a colonial aspect of it, in order to teach a group of people new ways, it has to be systematic. It has to be something that is planned and with strategy, if one may put it. That means you have to put up schools for it to happen. It has to be done every day in order to be effective. And with that said, all of a sudden comes the part where society alteration kicks in, where people's naming eventually gets changed, people's language ultimately gets faded out, and we have more evidence that this happened and will happen again than we don't have evidence that it is not possible. There's more evidence to prove the claim that when you go into societies in which you share your beliefs upon them, eventually that society changes to become miniature version of what the religious as a preacher preaches or wants it to be. That is, it's impossible. If I would put it, it's impossible to maintain, let's say, your Africanness or your nativeness and be, let's say, Christian or Muslim.
Yeah, I'm not gonna object to that. I wouldn't say that it's a necessary thing to happen. I think that some societies might find it within themselves to be a bit more restrictive and to not adopt, or maybe to, to shun you and shut you out. But in most history, you're correct. And when an evangelical Christian or a da'iya Muslim comes, or anyone comes with foreign ideas and ideologies, most of the time societies do change. But do you have a problem with that?
I actually do have a problem with that. I have a problem with the alteration of people's trajectory. I have a big problem with it because when people tend to, let's say, go to, let's say, villages and stuff where they tend to share, let's say, their religious belief or their any ideology, they in many cases we think we are doing them um, a genuinely good service. That is the notion. But then we never see far enough into the future that what is going to happen to these people um, after, 10 years, after 20 years, and so on. We tend to just give them the word, I've done my good deed as a Muslim, then we move on.
I totally. So I'm gonna be honest, because we're both Africans. I think we're gonna agree on this. But I don't. So I'm gonna say three things. I understand I understand and I agree what you just said. But I think that uh, when it comes to certain things, sometimes even you would partake in, in changing the trajectory of society, because you would deem that whatever this society or what they would be doing or are doing is not correct and it must be changed. Even you,
According to whom?
according to yourself. I can give you
Okay.
an example.
Mhm,
Let's say that you have a nation.
mhm.
I don't even need to be hypothetical. North Korea. North Korea is a very bad country where they oppress their people, and I think that you have because I get that the impression with you that you don't
Have you
like
been
oppression.
to North Korea?
I've never been to North Korea. No,
So how do you know the other people are being oppressed?
I believe in the testimonial evidence I get from dissidents, from people who have escaped, and all that.
Okay. So your proof of evidence is based on what other people say, but you haven't witnessed it yourself that the people are oppressed. What if that
Yeah.
what if is the fact that only those three people were oppressed, but the everyone else was fine?
Well, if that's true, the fact that when people go to North Korea, they're not that free in moving around. They can't just go anywhere. They need to be with their guide. If they divert from the pre-planned route, they might face trouble. All of this aids and strengthens this idea that these dissidents and these people have escaped North Korea and present, which is that North Korea is a very restrictive and that the regime is very authoritative, and if you don't do as they say, you might have some real problems to deal with. All of that, I think, strengthens the idea. Now, could I be very wrong? I could. However, the possibility of that not being the true, I regard as infinitesimal, and because of the said reasons, yeah.
No, I think I do share the same a concern with you about North Korea and the restriction of people. But it comes a point when we are grown, now grown people, when we hear things, we have to ask tough questions. And these questions that I ask to my siblings too when they claim that someone have done them evil. I always ask you, what role did you have to play in these things that are happening to you?
Mm.
And therefore, that's to know that yes, that they are not fully innocent in what happened. You know, but it's like when do you have okay? Do you think that the spread of religion is something positive, especially to places who are rural or, let's say, indigenous?
Well, if that religion is Islam, obviously yes. If it's
Hmm.
not Islam, then no.
Okay, and why do you make that claim? And purpose, you can do jump in and interject if you do wish. But why do you think if only it was Islam, then it will it's a good thing?
Because at the end of the day, I believe that the purpose uh, of the creation of mankind is to worship and obey God Almighty, Allah Azza wa Jal. And the more people who get that message, and the more people who accept that message, and the more people who do what they are supposed to do, and then the better. Um, that's basically it.
So, unless you want to say something purpose, but you believe that um, Islam is the one and true religion. Okay.
Yeah.
But what is true in terms of what we can observe with our eyes is that Islam was supposed to fix a problem, and the problem, let's say, is a human behavior, a bad human behavior. But then we fast forward many years now, we still have those bad behaviors, if not worse, or intensify because of Islam or religion. Okay, there are places in Nigeria, in Ghana, in other places that are in total shambles because of the ideologies of Islam. What do you have to say to that?
I think it's very sad that people you have um, you have people who have done very bad things, and you have organizations, terror organizations, who do very bad things, and you have people who use their religion for their own agenda, and it's sad. However, I don't agree with the notion that Islam, of course, I believe that Islam is meant to and be followed and be in the Quran. It's meant to be a hidayah, guidance for all humanity. uh, in the same breath, we Muslims definitely do not believe in forcing anyone to become Muslim. And I don't even believe, even if Islam did propose such a thing, I don't even know how you would go by enforcing. Someone might give the oppression or impression of following a religion, but still be a disbeliever. So uh, you have the right to do whatever you want, to believe whatever you want, and most people and exercise that right excessively. You have atheists, you have agnostics, you have people who are adherents to other denominations, other religions, and then you have people within the ummah, within the fold of Islam, who do very weird things. All of that shows is that at the end of the day, you are free to do whatever you want, but when you die, you will be held accountable to whatever you do.
That is not true because the reason why I hold that not to be true is what we've witnessed in time and time again, where there's a small uprising that you see people, the first, how do you call it? I'm gonna call it the first casualties of such Islamic uprisings are usually people who are Muslims, but always seen as lesser than in terms of they are not fully out, they are not radical enough, they are not like vocal enough about Muslim, they are not unapologetic enough, you know. And I think because of colonization, and I always say this, that Islam is a weapon of destruction. And the reason why I say this, you know, after Europeans created the world, when the Berlin Conference is 1888, 18 something, 44 something. Sorry, do correct me if I'm wrong. But after that, when the world was cut into pizza, like pizza, all of a sudden you see people had to deal with people they would normally wouldn't have to deal with. So you see people who, let's say, in the northern part of Africa, let's say the Fulanese and stuff like that, are automatically dealing with other ethnic groups that they usually wouldn't have to. And then comes the fact that they have to spread their Islam. But then here the other tribe will say, listen, we don't want to be Muslim. So then how do you go about it, to insert your dominance? And that's where the violent part comes in, that people are unalived because someone else claimed that this is blasphemy. So there is killings, unalivement without how will I say it, without proper procedure, you know and as an African, I see this to be an imported problem, that if we didn't have these things to begin with, we wouldn't have those kind of problems. We will have problems, but not religious problems, or people being unalive because of someone claimed that they read a book, and now it is their divine duty to unalive people just because they said something that went against. And I think if I was in an Islamic country, someone with my view would have shut down in a heartbeat, because my views will be classified as dangerous into that society. True or false?
Most definitely, but I think we need to be careful because you're using words that are seemingly innocent, but every choice of words are most of the time they're loaded. When you say proper procedure, when you say without justification, um, and when you uh, make an issue of certain rulings, certain judicial punishments, and you are um, implicitly in favor of um, what I believe to be rights of that the West has, uh, you know,
I,
um, described and come forth with. I could ask you a simple question,
mhm.
because do you believe in human rights?
I believe in, yes, that there is something that is human rights, but I wanted to classify what I mean about proper procedure. Even if people are supposed to be unalive under the laws of the Sharia law, right, then you have to go through those full length of that procedure, not halfway. You have to go through the full length of that procedure, not just uh, see with your eyes without questioning, and let's say going to court in many regards, and then making a decision, but rather making a decision, then you tell people this is what the person did, while there are no witnesses to prove that yes, this person did what we claim that person did. And that is what I find to be problematic
Okay.
in many countries, that there is what we people would claim jungle justice. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there are a lot of countries where you have vigilante justice, but I have an issue with that as well. I believe it's haram. When you see proper states like Saudi, or most of these Khalij countries, when a blood is spilled, you have these proper procedures, and the Arabs are they know the dangers of vigilante justice, and that's why whenever someone is killed, the clan are quick on trying to resolve the issue by either giving and you paying the dia blood money, or seeking justice through the court system. I'm very much against vigilante justice. So, and if that's what you meant, I agree. Um, um, but then I'll ask you something else. Yeah, about human rights. You said that you believe in human rights,
yeah,
right?
I do believe in
Why do
human
you
rights.
why do you believe in human rights?
I believe that as a person, a human being, I have an unchallenged right to live the way I do want to live, especially if the way I live does not affect your life negatively.
And why do you believe that?
I believe that to be true, that that is the only way you can ensure longevity. That means you can save lives and hold a view of life where you can have a sustainable Earth. That means there's less war, so things actually thrive within your immediate society. But
All right.
if there is no human rights, then we'll have always chaos.
And
Bec-
you can. I
because
don't know what your.
it was human rights that led to the abolishment of slavery.
Um, yeah, to a certain extent.
To the second extent, yeah, and the Saudi Arabia was, if not the last nation to abolish slavery, and it's very particular to me that why is it that the I'll call it the pushers of Islamic ideologies are the last to abolish slavery, the enslavement of people. You know, I have a problem with it that any ideology that allows the owning of other human beings I'm against.
I think we also need to appreciate the difference in how slavery and the business of slavery looked between the Islamic world and the Western world. It's very easy to say that slavery is slavery, and even
Slavery is
without
slavery.
I think it's a huge difference between taking someone from a West African country and putting them in a boat, dumping their bodies in the Atlantic Ocean, making them pick cotton, and when they're done picking cotton, you lynch them, and you take someone's slave because you have conducted a war, and then you take them as slaves. You don't lynch them, and you don't whip them, and they have due rights, and they can buy their freedom. I don't think the Negroes of in the United States of America could buy their freedom. So there's a huge difference. And
Let me.
however,
Okay.
yeah, okay. However, if you were to ask me if I because now we're going into slavery, I really wanted to go down a different route. But if you were to ask me what about the things Islam says about slavery and if I'm against that, I'm definitely not against it, and I support the Sharia 100%. Whatever it allows, I fully support, and whatever it condemns, I fully condemn. Um, but I'm really interested in knowing because you're an atheist, and it's very easy for you to pick on and criticize elements of different or other religions.
Mhm.
Um, but you have your own worldview, and just now you explained why you believe human rights are important. You and talked about um, liberty,
Mhm.
that you should be able to do whatever you do. You implied the harm principle. You implied stuff that a utilitarianist would imply, that longevity is good, that and prosperity is good. I can challenge you on all of these things and ask you why I should care about longevity, why I
Okay.
should care
Okay.
about
We'll
prosperity.
we'll come back there. Okay. But first, let me tell. I want to say something. When it comes to
Yeah,
slavery,
hello?
hold on for me, please, Farron, if you can, please. I will
Yeah,
greet
but
you on the
if
channel.
you tell me to hold on, I will come to hike you too and I will rip your black head off.
What the fuck?
You
Just
know,
drop it.
it's always and these are the people who give band-aid to Islam. You know, and when people say that Islam is a violent religion, then
But
people
how
are
do you know
shocked.
who is Muslim? But how do you know who is Muslim?
It might be that's why he's triggered. But back to what I say. There are two types of slavery, right? There's indentured servitude and there's chattel slavery. And the difference is that indentured servitude is one that many people will say, let's say, I owe you money or you owe me money. We agree upon, let's say, I'm gonna cut your grass. Then we're gonna say that we have the due is paid or the offer the how do you call it, the fine has been paid if I put in that regard. But then we have chattel slavery, the type of slavery in which you can sell people and buy people. But the undeniable fact about owning people, whether indentured or chattel, is that it is always linked to violence. That
Yeah,
is
most
the
definitely.
problematic part of owning people. And when you fast forward and this is what I have a problem with, and the fact that Muslims do claim that they still support slavery no matter what type of it may be, is this that and many imams will say that this is a chapter of life or of human history we shouldn't revisit, and I do agree with them. And there are some imams that will say that it is part of the religion, and so be it. But the thing that we see, the aftermath of slavery, is one thing that we have to take into consideration when we talk about slavery. That or trying to revisit the chapter of slavery, that the aftermath is one thing that we yet haven't recovered from. And since we yet haven't recovered from, why can a man or a person in their right state of mind claim that it is okay to own people?
What's the aftermath of slavery? Of if
Hold
we
on,
don't
hold
need.
on, hold on. Listen, to whoever you are threatening my life, mind you, me, I don't care. I'll report you for terrorism. I don't give a fuck. If you're gonna come to my space and claim that you're gonna kill me because I'm having this debate, me, I'll report you for hate crime, and I'm gonna report you for that after this live. Okay? I'm gonna report you to the police for threatening my life, so that you know. Just hold on. I am going to report you to the police for threatening my life. You know I'm going to do that after this life. I don't give a fuck. And
You
that
should do that. That's
I'm
smart.
going to do it because, and that's the problem about these debates. That listen, you can disagree with me. If you disagree with me, you can come on this live and talk about it. Yes, I will report you for fucking terrorism because you might be one, because no one was talking to you. We are having our discussion about slavery. If you have a problem with it, and that's you, you can fucking move on with your life. But you decide to stay and push threats. You're a Muslim that want Christians like me, so what? Did I even tell you I'm a but beside the the problem. Let's move on. About even the live wasn't about Islam to begin it. This is a live about, you know, uh,
Collab and these questions here.
about evidence, all right, to prove, you know. And then let's see.
Hello, my poop friend. How are you going?
You see your fellow people who claim to be Muslims, and they uh, with an
Well,
honest conversation.
they should be happy they live in the West and not in a Khilafa or Dawla Islamiyah. If they live in an Islamic country, they wouldn't be able to say these things. So I kind
No,
of
no,
blame the West for having these people the right to speak,
no,
because
no,
we
no,
wouldn't
no, no.
we
I don't
wouldn't.
think I don't think that is the problem. I think the problem is, when we talk about indoctrination into why how people indoctrinate their children, how we teach religion, and this goes to any ideology. We always teach it in a way that is favorable to an ideology, what we want. Uh, so let's say your parents will teach you in a way where you will be that way because that's what their worldview is. That you are you push threats on people who are having a discussion. All of a sudden, your immediate ideology is to unalive or speak of threatening people, and that is one thing that I find to be problematic about, and that's the reason why we talk about this. And that is it about high time that we say that religion is a cancer. You see, when people make the claim that religion itself is a cancer because of people who make rhetorics like this, that when you are having discussions about things that have happened, why it happened, all of a sudden the response to why you are having this discussion is to threatening people.
Well, I condemn that. And in the same breath, I can say if something is cancerous because the proponents of a certain ideology are vile and violent, then every ideology on this planet becomes cancerous. I can find you liberal atheists who are very vile and very violent. I can point to the U.S. To the United States and what the military have been doing in the Middle East and in Africa the past 26 years for different endeavors, mostly economical but also ideological, none of which have been, I would say, influenced by Christianity. Rather, most of them are because they are propagating liberal hegemony, democracy, and of course, oil is good business. Does that mean that liberalism and democracy is cancerous?
You know, democracy in itself is a cancerous ideology too.
Okay,
And
okay,
and I
you're
and I
honest.
and I say that it is a cancerous ideology because of what we've seen. You know, many ideologies are cancerous in its core because the intent uh, of why it came to be is the reason why. Who is requesting? I'm not gonna bring you up, Papa something. Who are you, Papa? I know you're the same guy trying to. But yet again, it is a cancerous ideology. So then that's why we are speaking of these things. Whether when we speak of colonization and its impact on life, I find it how do you call it fairly, how will I say it, problematic that people of certain faith don't want to address how colonization shaped religion. Do you believe
Yeah.
colonization shaped your worldview or religion that you hold?
I don't believe it shaped the religion, but it did shape people. Prior to Somali, so I'm a Somali. Prior to Somalis being Muslim, they were something else, maybe polytheists. I don't know, but nowadays most Somalis are Muslims. So Islam definitely changed the Somalis, and it changed the Egyptians, most of the North Africans, some people in the West Africa, some people in Central Africa. Iran and Malaysia, and it shaped people. And you have reverts and people converting who are Caucasians who live in Europe, who live in the US. You have Latino Muslims. So the religion does change and people, but I don't think that it changes the religion itself. No.
Hold on, let me reply on the comment talk. And I'm telling him to talk in the comments if he wants to speak. He can talk in the comments. We'll hear him fine. But the reason why I believe that it does shape, because I remember 2 years ago, I was doing Bible study with this Jehovah Witness couple for like 3 years, during COVID, and we were speaking. Yeah, we did have honest conversation and Bible study for the longest. Then came to the point where the matter of slavery came into the picture, because sooner or later it is going to happen where you speak upon the atrocities of the book, because as a human it is how will I say it? It is natural that you come to a point where you're questioning things, that where people questioning their standing of anything. It is fairly human that you question things. So then you question why, let's say, the Bible allow things like slavery. All of a sudden, I couldn't have Bible study with them anymore because I questioned the allowance of enslavement of people uh, during how do you call it during slavery or in the Bible. Hi, hello, Purpose. Welcome back. Welcome back.
you very much. I needed to just sort a couple of things.
Yeah, it's necessary. It's necessary to do sort up a couple of things. I know the conversation shifted a little
Yeah,
bit.
sorry for hijacking the conversation purpose.
It's not
Oh,
a problem. I just wanted to know quickly, sorry, one man, what kind of African are you?
East Africa, Somali.
Ah, okay, cool.
yeah, he's a Somali and he's we love the Somalian people. But I have a question. Why? don't Somali people qualify for the World Cup? That's what I want to see in my lifetime.
We do have some players. I was quite shocked. There was some Somali guy playing for, was it South Korea? And then you have some Somali guy in Canada and some Somali guy in Sweden. So we do have Somali athletes who are good, but they play for the different nations. If they, yeah, if I think in maybe 10 years, 15 years, I have big issues with my people, with my country, because we look at most Muslim countries who are war torn. Most of them are war torn because of the US. But Somalia is one of those countries, and where the inhabitants of the country really fuck their country, astaghfirullah, but they destroy their country themselves. The US didn't do much there. Okay, you had the Black Hawk, didn't happen much. But we are so stupid in East Africa, and I've big issues with my people. Um, so my focus isn't really the World Cup. My focus is our country becomes prosperous. But I think alongside that, if we do become that, I think we do have great talent in our country.
I do want to see Somalia qualify them for the World Cup in at least in our lifetime. You know,
God willing. But
it, it,
I'm happy. A lot of African nations did, go through. You had Ghana, and you have, I think Senegal went through. You have Cape Verde, amazing. So we're
South
happy.
Africa, even South Africa purpose.
Yes, even South Africa. So yeah, it's good.
Yes, but obviously not qualifying further because of bad behavior. What do you expect when you're a bad seed? You spread bad fruits.
What do you mean?
Which
South
country was
Africa
that?
is not qualifying?
It did qualify, yeah, but it did not fall off recently. They lost from Mexico. No,
Yeah.
yeah, they
Oh,
lost from Mexico. We lost from Mexico, yeah.
yeah, but I thought they have enough points to go to the round of 32. Oh,
I don't actually support the World Cup. I don't believe in it. I think it's a game. It's a scheme for it's a childish game.
I see. I want to see how far South Africa gets actually. It was surprising their performance that they even won a game because you didn't have players this year, but it is what it is. That's what football is.
We didn't have no support at all. Actually,
Yeah,
I, I like to agree with one man. I don't identify with my people at all. You can call me anything from any other part of the world, but I'm not African, not South African.
yeah. I recently there was this guy before you left. There was this guy who came out here, making threats. Because we're having this conversation. It's distasteful to him. And one man I was saying that listen, that people claim that it is okay, when we speak about these things that you come and threatening people without
Mhm.
even in the understanding what the conversation. That's why nowadays I record live now because it is evidence now. So the live is recorded, and I told him I'm going to uh, lay it forth to the police after because it's fairly distasteful that people do come to this live and don't even pay attention to the conversation and just hauling threats because when you do not rage bait, and that's why I don't rage bait in these lives. One man, we ask genuine questions that actually sparks conversation instead of rage baiting because rage baiting will trigger people to be that way. But then when I am not doing that, so then what grants? You see, then you're just coming to places, putting your ideology into places where um, it has no place. Uh, you
Most
know.
definitely. No, as I said, yeah, I think you're very respectful. You're very genuine, and I hope you have seen me respectful. And when people do those kind of things, I completely disagree with that.
Oh no, no, I do enjoy talking to you. That's why we still on the panel and talking. But then let's move on to the conversation. And it's like one thing that I've seen, especially when people claim, and I myself, I can say I have been a victim of such claim once in my lifetime, where people say that I have been saved because on that very moment we change our behavior. So then the question is, can we be saved even if we are shit people, if I may put it in that
Yeah,
in that
that's a good
sense?
question. Yeah, I think we can. There's actually this interesting story from Islamic tradition where you had this mass murderer who killed 99 people. It's a very uh, renowned story. This man, he was a mass murderer. He has killed 99 people throughout the course of his life. And then someday he woke up. He didn't feel like, he was remorseful. He wanted to repent. So he went down to sought a sheikh, an alim, a learned man, and he asked that man, yo, can I get forgiven for my sins? And that learned man was not that learned. So he said, no, you can't be forgiven. You have killed 99 people. How do you expect God to forgive you? And so the murderer was like, is that so? Yes. So he killed that man as well. So he became the 100th man to die.
But
And then
I
and then
wanted to cut you. I was saying
yeah.
the question was before. That means I'm still, let's say I'm still a person who,
Was it before? Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
who sells substance, right? And I've decided I'm gonna still do that same bad deeds, but can I be saved even if I still do those same bad deeds?
Well, obviously, when it comes to the nature of the Sharia in Islam and how a Muslim should behave, you shouldn't actively be doing sins intentionally. Obviously, you're gonna do errors, you're gonna err, you're gonna sin, but it's a difference. There's a huge difference in falling into sin because of your weakness, because of temporary temptations. Maybe you have an issue with gambling. Maybe you sell drugs. Maybe you're into porn and stuff like that. You do that, and, in the moment, you don't find the strength in yourself to not do that, and you can still be Muslim. You should, as long as you believe that what you have done is very wrong, and you seek earnest and genuine repentance. You're still Muslim. You might fall back into that sin 100 times, and obviously it's a problem for your scale of good deeds and bad deeds, because just because you seek repentance, it doesn't guarantee that your repentance is accepted. You need to be earnest. I mean, Allah doesn't accept. Oh, I'm gonna fall into these things 100 times, and I'm just gonna, ask for forgiveness, and and then in that way you try to find some loop. You need to be actively trying to change your life. However, it's not impossible that you are a drug dealer and you keep selling drugs, and you're still a Muslim, because at the end of the day, and I think this is a huge takeaway you should take, and from us Muslims and us religious people. At the end of the day, what really matters when all things are done, when humanity, everyone has died and everyone are resurrected, is, have you given your Lord his due rights? It doesn't really matter if I have given you your rights, because
Wait,
what
wait.
humans, yeah, let me land
Rephrase what you're saying. Okay.
that. Why do you want me to rephrase?
You were saying about rights, right? And it says it does matter. I'm not saying rephrase, like I'm gonna come back and explain what you're saying about when you say you've given someone their right. Are you saying that an individual has been granted their right as individuals, or you've done your
Yeah,
deed?
for instance, you have a right. I as a Muslim, unless you're an active warfare against me and you oppress me, I must show kindness and be gentle and just towards you, right? So I need, that's what Allah commands. Unless you are actively an oppressor of mine, and you kill me or my family, and you are out to harm me, I need to show kindness and
No,
justice
no,
and be gentle towards you. Let's say I don't do that. Let's say I oppress everyone on this planet. I kill everyone. I rape everyone. I do a
no.
lot of things.
Hold on for me. TikTok
Yeah.
language.
Oh, sorry. And but I do these horrible acts, right? This is very bad, and
Hmm.
you will definitely get punished in some way or not. But a big issue I find with atheists is that they fail to understand that from a religious point of view, human life doesn't really matter. And this can be an, illustrated by this analogy. You have people like
Wait,
Bill
wait, 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 wait,
Gates.
wait, 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 wait. You
Yeah,
say atheists, and purpose, do bear with me. Human lives don't really matter. Uh,
I'm gonna land on that so you can, so then you might understand, because What really matters, and I need you to bear with me, understand me here.
Mhm.
What really matters are those things that can get out, that can get you out of hellfire if you were to go down there. You get what I'm trying to say? That's what really matters.
But
Everything else,
is there a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
way? Is there a way to get out of hellfire if you've been once
Most
there?
definitely. Of course, from an Islamic point of view, of course, the only way you can leave the hellfire
So
with
why do you claim that human lives don't matter?
I'm coming there.
Okay.
Human lives matters in the way that Allah tells me to be just and gentle and kind to humans, and if I don't do that, I risk being punished in the hellfire. So obviously, someone who is a rational being and
It's not
believes in God,
explaining.
and
It's not explaining like
it's not
why
explaining what.
or purpose. Am I the one who is not understanding? Like because you claim human lives don't really matter on this planet.
I
So
think hu- wait, human lives do matter in this planet. I think what he's trying to say is similar teaching. Perhaps if I correct me if I'm wrong, please. You're trying to preach it in a the things of this world do not matter as much as we pay attention to.
Yes,
We should not
precisely.
pay so much attention to these things because this is an experience, it's a journey. It's not it's not the actual thing. It's not the main meal per se.
do you know why I stopped you, one man? It's not
Yeah.
because I don't understand. I do understand what you're saying, but it's the way you're wording it. You know, when we speak, and I've been doing this thing for a long time, and even purpose know that the way we word ourselves triggers a different emotion in the people that we speak to. When you are preaching to people and you're using words like human lives don't matter, how do you think one would interpret what you're saying that humans' life don't matter, whilst you are meaning something is that the things and the materialistic things in life rather don't matter? Because when you tell people that human lives don't matter, they think human lives don't matter. That means it is okay to do harm to people.
I understand that, and that's why I think it's important to let me learn.
No, no, it's
Obviously,
not important to let you learn because when you learn, the damage has already been done. It's important that you correct yourself when you speak in ways that it's not what you intended. Okay, let's
but
say
what if
this
it's
this should
but what if
be,
it's intentional?
and that is the problem. Then you say then it is intentional.
Yeah, my wordings are intentional because,
Hmm.
and this is another mismatch I find. And this, you're not the first one to take a problem to this type of wording
No,
when I speak about human life. But a lot of atheists and agnostics do not come with such a gentleness when they speak about God. They are they speak about God in a very which in a way that we Muslims would find very disrespectful. They attribute certain things to him, and they speak to him in a very vile way, and they have no problem doing that. Why? Because they are not believers in God. But however, they are humans, and for them, their human life is the most precious thing. So I do and formulate myself in this way very intentionally because I want to show you the mismatch in our
because
ontological.
because because you want to provoke fear.
That's what you said. I was trying to say I want to show you the mismatch in our epistemological framework.
No, no.
It's
Let,
very
let me tell you why I think that wording is wrong. And because listen, English is not our first language, and we are speaking the colonizers' language, bear you. And you have to understand, English is a very technical language. And those of you who have been to court multiple times, you know that words can be used against you. That's why when you are arrested by the police, they say what you have the right to what to remain silent because what everything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. There's a reason why those phrases are permanent and they are there. That means it is recited to you. That is your right to remain silent. Okay. When you claim and make those claims, right? It is perceived as a threat. It is a threat, and that is the bottom line of it. When you claim that human lives don't matter, and you claim that your intentions in which why you voice those words in the way that you voice them is to provoke fear, and that is how it will be understood as. Because I don't think purpose. If someone told you that human life don't matter, how will you understand that claim or that statement?
Well, it's as direct as it sounds, and unfortunately, I think we need to be careful with how we put things across. And sometimes I'm not the best person at explaining. We did speak about that. English is not our first language. Yeah.
And let me tell you one thing, even as a Muslim, you have to tell you are an ambassador to your religion. Whether you like it or not, you are an ambassador to your religion. So everything you do and say does affect your religion, both negatively and positively. So if you claim and you use words that are threatening, automatically it tells the world as a Muslim, this is your worldview, and that is transcending across the globe. So when people see Muslim and they say that Muslims are harmful people, it's because of the way you word yourself, where you frame yourself, because those are the words that sparks
Okay,
fear.
but I have a
Do you
question.
understand what I'm saying?
Oh, of course, I understand you. But I have a question. I've said that to many people,
Mhm.
and most people who have said that to do not take the position you have taken. Rather, they say when I think we both can agree that what you just said might be misunderstood into something you don't actually mean. However, within the context, I understand what you mean, and then they let the conversation flow. You have decided not to do that. Rather, you have and picked on this, and then you have decided to talk about it for 10 minutes. Why do you do that when there are people capable of understanding the wider context and just let it go?
Let me tell you one thing I do, because you see, I love human behavior. I love to understand why people do the things they do and why people say the things they say and where we say the things that we say. I know the intent in which you are saying it, but as another African, okay, and this is what we talk about, and we speak about decolonization, and we decolonize from the way we speak and ideologies. Okay, and as another African, the ideology in which you hold or the way you phrase that human lives don't matter is wrong. And I'll tell you that as a fellow African, you know, because when
You
you
know what?
say this,
I don't have a problem with reformulating myself.
I know you don't
And
have a problem with it. I know you don't have. That's why you said it. Because if you did, you wouldn't have done it. And this is why I'm telling you, if you're gonna be in spaces where you are going to talk to people and try to spread a positive light on your ideology or your religion, whatever it is, you have to, and that's why I told you in the first foremost that if you are going to spread your dawah to people, you need a language that allows you to do it, right? So if you encounter native people in which their language don't allow you to spread your religious views in the way you want to spread, then it becomes problematic. You are stagnant. You get nowhere. You know, and this is one of the occasions in which you said if you meet, let's say, a native tribe, and you believe that your religion is good for them, but you are explaining to them in ways where you are meeting the wall, where they are telling you, the things that you are saying, actually, we don't agree with. You have to rephrase your statement. But if you deny to rephrase your statement in order for your words to be understood in way to, let's say, shed a positive light on what you're trying to say, then it is problematic to begin with, that your intent is colonial. And that is why we have this life, that there is a thin line between the spread of religion and it becoming colonial, it becoming a vendetta against people. It's a very slippery slope.
sure. I'm not gonna object to anything. I just want the conversation to move forward. So okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have formulated that my way that way. I'm gonna reformulate myself. Human life is precious. However, in front of God's and the value of God and His intrinsic value, the intrinsic value of human life diminishes in front of the Almighty Being. And that's why people can do horrendous stuff to Muslims or to humans, be punished in hellfire for 110, 100, 1,000 years, and still come out. Because at the end of the day, and if someone has accepted and has given his Lord his due rights, there's nothing that can take away from that. And you know of singularities, you know of the universe, you know of that singularities are points with you know huge mass and nothing can escape it, not even light. If you had a well that was infinitely deep and there's nothing you can fill with it to fill up that well, right? The intrinsic value of God is something that cannot be filled with anything if his values are taken away. And that's why you can go from an Islamic point of view, you can go into the hellfire, even as a Muslim. We're not Christians, we don't believe that we have been saved. And even though I think some Christians believe that we can go to hellfire, you often hear some Christians who say that they can't go to hellfire. I'm not going to do any claims about Christianity here. At least we Muslims, we believe that not only can Muslims go to the hellfire, Muslims, certain Muslims will be the first ones to enter the hellfire, and so we're not saved, we're not guaranteed in any way and whatsoever. And however, there you have God, and He's the Almighty One, and His rights must be given to Him. And what are His rights? His rights are to be worshipped. And if you give his rights to something else, another deity, a statue, and your desires, then you have taken his rights away from him. And there is nothing you can do. And that's why I mentioned Bill Gates and these philanthropists earlier. These philanthropists can help how many people they want. They can help the whole planet for 100 million years to come. They can't help. There's not a set number of people they can help to reach the injustice they have done towards God when they take away His rights. And this is a nuance a lot of atheists and agnostics are missing, and that's why they posit and the problem of evil and a lot of, and I would say, incorrect arguments is, oh, if God exists, He wouldn't do this, He wouldn't do that, He wouldn't be like this, He wouldn't be like that. I'm like, who are you to say what God would and wouldn't be able to do, especially when you disbelieve in Him? Like, and you, as an African colonialist, I believe that you should have a bigger issue with this. I would understand if a white Caucasian male who is born into a society with imperialistic and expansionist tendencies talk like this. But you, as an African, you should be wary of this way of speaking. You should be wary of judging someone else, let alone God, and this way. God can do whatever He wants the way He wants it. The question isn't why do things exist if God does exist. The question is, if God does exist, how can we know of Him, and what proves His existence?
Okay. Thank you for your apology and rephrasing your statement. It made it more digestible, and I think purpose can understand because it is very paramount that we actually rephrase our words, and also for many times to have been caught up. People have told me no, the things that I say are wrong, and I have to adjust myself. In court, and then you think about it, and you can understand that yes, what you just did in the last 5 minutes or so you spoke, that's what I want to hear more of because it makes the conversation more digestible, you know, and it makes it more. I understand your point, and to say to what you asked me, that how can an African have an ideology where it is people might view that it is a non-believer's ideology. So I will say this: Africans, prior to them being Christians or Muslims, did not believe in God or the Abrahamic God. Is it true or false?
It's true.
In Somalia, you had a belief, what people call spirituality, what people called whack or something like
Yeah,
without
yeah,
regard.
that's
Yes,
true.
yes, yes. So at across the board, any African nation, wherever you find yourself, they had deities in which they worshipped prior to, let's say, some would say the revelation, where people had the idea of a one true God. So when people say that, and there are people who do hold this view in this community, they say that I, for one, have decided that I want to follow the footsteps of my ancestors. Like I want to date what my grandfather did and his father, and so on. That I do not want to be a Muslim. I do not want to be a Christian. Are they uh, right to have those views?
Yes, of course.
Mhm. And why are they right to have those views?
because it, because the Sharia allows them to have that view.
The Sharia allows them, but they can't allow themselves to have those views.
No, precisely, and I love that objection, and
Hmm.
this is why earlier I asked you about human rights, and then you went on this, what, and you know you substantiated why you believe that you should be able to do whatever you do as long as you don't harm principle. I have a huge problem, and I believe that even if I wasn't a Muslim, I would still have a huge problem with the idea that humans have the right to give themselves rights and others obligations. I don't know of any council who can give me an obligation but just because they said I have an obligation, and that's practically what has happened. And I found it very interesting that, especially you as an African, and sorry if I press and stress on this, but you have been talking about, you have been, using that as your foundation. You're very anti-colonial, and you are presenting yourself as this, this guy with this African identity. And I really don't understand how you can accept the this this thing they have presented to humanity
What
after
what
the
thing
Holocaust.
what thing
This
have they present?
declaration, of human rights that they authored after the Second World War, and that they have basically
Okay,
forced all the whole globe upon. Even if I'm not a Muslim, why should I oblige by these human rights? What gives
okay,
this people, this
okay,
council, and of people, who gives them the right to tell me that I have rights? What
okay,
the hell is this?
okay.
If anything, I have the ultimate right to give myself rights. I have the ultimate right to give myself obligations, if any. I don't believe that an external and a council, whether it's
Do you
dictatorial
do you
or
know why?
democratically, yeah,
Do you know why the United Nation became a thing?
most definitely. But I don't care.
No,
Why
no.
should
Do
they?
you know
Why
why?
should
Why the United Nation became a union? Why was the United Nation established?
I'm gonna tell you exactly why.
Yeah, I'm
It's
listening.
it's 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 purely for some sympathetic reasons and nothing else.
Whose
Purely
sympathetic reasons?
the Europeans, after they saw what happened in the First World War and the Second World War, especially with the Holocaust and people getting killed there and there, they were like, "Hey, we're better than this. We can do better. People should have rights. We can't be like this. You know what? Let's come together and let's, care about longevity and the prosperity of humanity." If they were so smart, if the white Caucasian male was so smart, why did it require a Holocaust and the killing of many people in Africa, in North Africa, for such a council and for such an organization to be established?
Okay,
I think this is a fluke. I believe it's a fluke, and I would never, even if I were to leave my religion, I really believe I'm never gonna do it. I'm never gonna accept another man, especially a white Caucasian man, to tell
okay.
me which rights and obligations I have.
Okay. I understand, and the things that you say are true. But do you know the reason why many people fall under or support the Human Rights Act is this? When colonization was abolished, we had a vacuum of spaces where everyone wanted to be what they used to be, and with that came war and so on, and the world was in shambles because, mind you, colonization and the Second World War have shaped the world in which it's almost impossible to reverse the way, because let's say Somalia was never a country until it was colonized and then it became Somalia. Okay, if Somalians say today we don't want to be Somalia, it sparks a civil war. That is why we have Somalia in shambles to this day because of these things. So that is the reason why the human rights is being supported by many nations. Okay, many people, and it is universally understood that as a human being you have basic necessities. Okay, and these necessities are your right to live, food and shelter, and if we're going to add to more, the right to education. Do you think these things are false to have as a human? No, no, I'm saying this is it false that the world agrees unilaterally that it is false?
No, so this is gonna be my answer.
Hmm.
The brute rights themselves, no, they're not forced. How to go by and actually implementing these things? Yes, they are the most forced things on this planet. When you look at especially the freedoms that the Muslim world do not recognize, and most non-Western countries, you have China. When it comes to certain, if you were to look at
You said
these
you
council,
said freedoms that most Muslim countries do not recognize.
yeah,
Okay, continue.
and even you have China, a lot of people and a lot of representatives of different countries during this time, and they did not vote in favor of these things. Rather, some voted against and some abstained. The problem at hand is this. This council has been giving the power and the backing of the United States and Western imperialist nations that it doesn't really matter who abstains and who votes no. The free world, i.e., the Western countries, the white countries, wants this. And most of the world has voted for this. So this is going to be
Okay.
universal. And this is how we're going
So,
to govern wait, and this is how we are govern and we're going to govern this planet. And you won't be able to partake in anything if you don't accept these things. That's why you have countries like Kenya. You will find a BBC journalist go to the president, the head of state of a country, and ask him what gives him what who gave him the right to run his country. What type are we back in the 18th century? How can a white man come to an
listen.
African country and talk to the head of state in such a disrespectful manner? This head of state has been elected by his people. His people does not want, for instance, homosexuality. What gives the white British male the right
Okay.
to come down to Kenya and tell him it doesn't really
Let, let,
matter
let, let me
what
tell you
you.
one thing, and the reason why I think you are contradicting yourself is this: is because whether you like it or not, the Europeans have shaped your reality to what it is. Okay, the fact that there's a thing called Somalia is a European thing. The fact that there's a thing called South Africa, the fact that there's a thing called Ghana, Nigeria, Norway, Britain,
Listen,
Sweden,
that doesn't take away from
that
any country.
is
We're
a
not.
European thing.
I
Prior,
don't. I
listen,
don't.
listen, prior to those things, Africans will live within our own national borders. That means whatever tribe you belong to govern itself. Today we have a state to govern the people who fall under the umbrella of that country. In
Okay.
many cases you find yourself the Tutsis governing the Hutus. You find the Ashanti being the president of the Gans, and then the Eves, the Ubuntus, and so on.
Okay.
And that is the reality of the world that we live in. But then, with that said, since that is the reality of the world is and purpose is here, that is the reality of the world we live in, came human rights. In order for us to achieve this new shaped reality that has happened for 400-500 years, human
Uh,
rights are necessary, whether you
Unnecessary.
like it or
Am I
not.
forced? Okay. Okay. Am I forced to accept this declaration or not?
No one, listen, in order to ensure peace, you have to abide by it in any ways. And I think, and without even reading the Quran, I think Quran would have its version of human rights.
But hey, 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 wait a second. You don't need my religion to substantiate your worldview. Void of any and the void of the, or even if you didn't have religion, void of religious existence.
Mhm.
Am I forced to abide by this declaration? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, is that just
Listen, whether you like it or not, the reason why you don't go to people's homes and breaking things is because
yeah?
there's something called consequences.
Yes,
Have you
yes,
heard
I
of that word
agree.
before?
Yeah, I
Consequences?
have, I have, I have, I have. Do
Yes.
you know? Ask me. You, I want you to ask me. Why don't I go and do horrible stuff? Ask me.
Why don't you do it?
Because of the Sharia. I don't do it because of the Human Rights Declaration of Human Rights.
Because there's consequences if you don't either.
Yes, yes, but my consequences, the consequences I fear, do not originate from a room filled with white Caucasian males. That's the difference between you and me. You fear the consequences imposed upon you from the white Caucasian male and his friends. I
Uh,
fear the consequences of the man who created these white Caucasian males. We're not the same, brother.
Listen, let me tell you one thing. I don't subscribe to the notion of human rights because I fear consequences. I
Uh-huh.
subscribe to the human rights that it ensures peace. Do you know what peace
Okay.
is?
I know what peace is.
Uh-huh.
If
That is the reason
I
why I subscribe to it, not because it came from a white man, and all nations have. That's the reason why, in order for you to marry, it has to go through the right channel. In order for you to trade, it has to go through the right channel. In order for you to do things, to interact with people, it has to go through the right
the
channel.
right
So
channel.
whether
But
spoken
okay.
or written, we have
Yeah.
agreements, non-verbal agreements. So whether you like it or not, you can voice
Okay.
this belief or dislike as much as you want. Whether you like it,
Yeah.
in order to trade in someone else's shop, you have to greet
Yeah.
that person, say, hey, good morning, I want to buy this. You can't go to someone's
Okay.
shop and be disrespectful. So whether you like it or not, in order to get things in life, you have to be
Okay.
polite. You
Can
have
I
to
ask you this?
adhere to human rights. What?
No
Yes.
problem. And what's the difference between because now you have switched to a more and whether you like it or not, this is reality type of rhetoric. What's the
Uh-huh.
difference between that and me saying whether you like it or not, we Muslims we're gonna take over the world and this is the new judicial system you abide under? What's the difference?
Okay.
If the only way you can uphold
Mhm,
and your system is by
mhm,
the military of the countries, most of them you don't actually like but you like their ideas.
mhm.
What stops me from working towards a unified Muslim ummah and making us military strong, taking over the world? And then I say, you know what, Mr. Victor, whether you like it or not, you have to go through the right channels, and we are the determinants of what the right channels are,
Okay.
and not the UN, not Bristol, not New York.
Okay. Let me say this. Purpose. You wanna go first, or you want me to take this one?
Yeah, this is very, very interesting.
It's
If
a
you
very
believe
it's
so.
a very interesting thing, and I will tell him. Listen, the difference is because we have seen it happen before. We have seen the push of people trying to spread Islamic ideology globally, and the end result is always bad. We've seen it
I
happen
can say,
multiple
I
times.
can say,
Listen,
I can say the very same thing about U.S. expansionist imperialism in the Middle East.
we
They just,
agree.
hey, bro, Mr. Victor, they just went to a sovereign nation,
Hmm.
Venezuela, and they kidnapped their head of state. Am I
Yes.
supposed to accept the
Mhm.
system imposed by these people? Come on, brother.
I do agree with you that I'm not saying what the Westerners doing. Mind you, this is an anti-colonial, but you have to understand that when you have a rhetoric, and in that rhetoric, it is your core belief, your clarion call, that it is your God-given right to spread your ideology on people, regardless of whether they like it or not. It is a dangerous rhetoric to have.
This is a very childish argument. Do you know why, Mr. Victor?
Hmm.
Because I just, as a counter argument to
Hmm.
everything you propose,
Hmm.
and pointed to the U.S. And then your answer to that is, well, the Muslims do that because they believe it's their God-given right.
No, that's
So
not what I
uh,
said.
that's just okay. Purpose. Am I putting words in his mouth? Didn't he just say
Th-
God-given right?
no, that's not what I said. I said if you believe it is your God-given right, and it's important. And then we spoke about this earlier about the wording. If you believe it is your God-given right, the same thing the Israelis are doing. That God promised them the land 3,000 years ago,
Yeah.
and that's why we speak on how to word yourself in order to be for you to be understood.
But okay, I need to understand you here.
Mhm.
Is it does it become less problematic if I don't believe it's my God-given right?
No,
So why do you even propose that as an argument? I don't understand.
because the
If they
argument
yeah
in which you claim was if Muslims decide to spread Islam around the globe.
yeah.
Yeah, and that is the reason why I made the answer.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so when Muslims do that, it's problematic because the Muslims believe it's their God-given right.
And
And on the same hand, when the U.S., when the people when Pete Hegseth and these now they even rebranded the name. Is the Secretary of War now? It's not Secretary of Defense. They're quiet. They're quite bold. They're quite honest. The
mhm,
Secretary of War, when him and Donald Trump, it doesn't really matter who becomes a president. All of them are puppets to the same ideology. When they do whatever they do, not believing that it's their God-given right, does that become less problematic?
No, it is as problematic as the
Okay,
people
it
who
is.
believe
It
it
is
is their
okay.
God-given right. But
Okay, so I don't
but
know
you
why
have to
we're talking
understand.
about it.
But you have to understand when you are speaking and we are arguing. I'm gonna allow hello to you, Scott. I saw you. When we are speaking about things, it is important that we stay on topic and we try to channel our intentions right to to speak in ways that will be understood, because that's the reason why I word myself in the way I word myself. Because when people believe that um, they're an invincible being, whether being Krishna, whether being whatever, has given them a right to do something upon other people where it can't be physically proven, right? That means the idiocy is limitless. And the same way with people who spread any ideology, we had Vietnam, for Christ's sake, we had Afghanistan, and today we are having what is going on in Iran. It is a problematic things that happen when people carry these ideologies.
You
But
have Guantanamo Bay and you have Nazi Germany. I don't understand your point, Mr. Victor. I need to
you
be
don't you don't
honest with
understand
you.
my point that those ideologies are dangerous. That is the point.
No, I do. Well, if that's the point, we agree. So why are we talking about this? This whole discussion originated from my objection to the Declaration of Human Rights. And you talking about consequences. You're talking about whether I like it or not. I need to accept these things. And I'm objecting to this thing you're saying. Why? And then you said this is how the word works. And then I said, well, I can. What if we change? We Muslims change the way the word works. Are you gonna subscribe to that? And you have yet to say yes. Rather, you are problematizing the idea of a divine being.
Listen,
And yeah.
I for one will say that if the idea of Islam is gonna spread globally, right, we're still gonna end up in a shithole anyways. Because
Okay.
for it to have spread, whether you like it, and this goes to any ideology, whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's Christianity, whether
Mhm.
it is Taoism, whether it is democracy, communism, it can never spread without bloodshed.
I agree.
Yes, that is the at least you are honest about it. It can never spread without bloodshed, and that is the fact about spreading ideologies to places where
But
people don't
why
subscribe.
is that? Do you know why
What?
that is?
What?
That's not because the religion itself and that the adherents of that religion are so eager to spilling blood. Rather, it's mostly because when a an empire, when a state power expands into regions, more often than not, the inhabitants of these regions who are expanding into, they put up a fight. Now, I'm not saying that it's illogical for them or irrational or that they shouldn't do. Obviously, well, they shouldn't do it because they're gonna die. But and that's what happens. But I can give you examples where expansions have happened without bloodshed. Why? Because people have been quite susceptible and quite happy to convert. At least if they don't want to convert, they accept the new rule. Why? Because as you say, this is how things are, and whether you like it or not, this is how we accept it.
Okay.
I
What are
still,
those
I still.
examples? Where are those examples where?
Oh, you can go to Abyssinia, and when the early converts went to Abyssinia, modern day Ethiopia,
Mhm.
you wouldn't be able, you weren't able
They,
to tell me if any warfare that happened there. In
they will.
Somalia, when
Wait. Just finish. What was spread in Abyssinia? What
Islam,
ideology? Islam.
Islam,
And Christianity.
and Christianity.
Okay.
But I'm not a proponent of Christianity, am I?
Hold on. In what way did these religions spread in those regions?
The same way they spread into different regions
No.
into Mesopotamia. Of course they did. Now
Listen.
the difference between the Abyssinians and Romans and the Mesopotamians is that the Mesopotamians did not like this new message, and they were like,
No.
"Hey, yo, if you don't
I
see
think you are mistaken. Let me correct you. You see, when Christianity did spread, and probably goes with Islam too, to modern day Ethiopia, it was the emperor that first accepted that religion, and it made it state religion.
I agree." Did
Wait,
Heraclius
hold
do
on,
that?
hold on. And he made it state religion. Therefore, that's how people is spread it. Okay.
Oh,
And mind you,
yes.
Ethiopia had internal colonization. So when you claim that, you see, people see the numbers today, like the amount of Muslims or Christians there. It's like, oh, mashallah, these are good things. But we tend not to. We tend to be blind to how it came to be. So we tend to, because there's a right way of going about things and there's a wrong way going about things, right? The right way is doing it out of your own volition. True or false? Is the right
Yes, to a
way?
certain,
Yes.
yes, to a certain degree.
What do you mean
However,
to a certain degree? What degree does it change?
and sometimes, and as long as someone accepts the truth, the manner in which they have accepted it doesn't really matter. The Negus, the emperor, or the de facto leader of Abyssinia, as you said, he became a Muslim, and then people were more prone to accept Islam.
Okay.
Prophet Muhammad,
Wait, 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 wait. Okay, okay.
Wait.
Wait,
I
wait.
need to give you a parable here, because you asked me a
I
question.
understand, understand. Because you claim the manner of in which people accept these things don't matter, okay? And bear with me, Purpose and Scott. I'm gonna let him finish so we can come back to that statement.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. Sorry. Do you want me to say something?
No, no, I'm saying that when you claim that the manner in which people accept these ideologies doesn't matter, and I think it's very funny to me that because for me it does matter whether it is out of own volition or is through force. Okay, and Scott can speak of about how people were forced to convert, how people was forced to leave their lands. So,
How do you force a conversion? I don't believe in forced conversions. How do you force a conversion, Victor?
I think
The
Scott was.
Christians did it.
I'm a
Hi,
Muslim. I'm
how's
not a
it going?
Christian. Hi, Islam. What's up, Scott?
Uh, yep, salam alaikum. Um, the it, I can only speak to how the Christians did it, because it affected my people so much that Hitler decided to use the same methods to remove the Jewish people from his lands. So,
Are you a Jew?
no, I am indigenous from Canada.
Uh-huh,
Aboriginal, Indian, with the feathers, not the polka dots.
okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Um, so when the Christians came, they used the church as a tool of colonization to basically genocide our culture, our languages, um, uh, in many cases, our people, our armies. They used bullets, they used poison blankets, they used poison, they used uh, everything they could to get rid of us, to steal our land. You know, just the same thing the Jewish people are doing to Palestinians right now. It's a tool. It's always been a tool. A tool for control, a tool for uh, you know, you do this under threat, or you will forever burn in eternity. You know, those kinds of threats. And they removed our children, threw them in their own schools, taught the kids like myself who went to Catholic school, taught them the 10 Commandments, said, "You shall not steal, you shall not murder, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife." You know, those types of things. And then they went around doing that to all of us on our lands, building up their cities, building up their country. So under threat is I believe all of us are reasonable people and can all agree that when a religion is taught to someone under threat, that's not a good place for religion to grow from.
Most
Yes?
definitely. Most definitely.
So that's basically what Victory was trying to say. Like, religion, and even I would imagine that the Islam religion has done this previously throughout history, where they go in to colonize an area, use the religion to justify things, use the religion to uh, 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 get the people to grow and start to follow your grow the clergy, I suppose is proper terminology for that. Um, it happened with in Europe long before it ever happened here, because the Danes, who believed in the Norse gods, they were forced to change to Christianity as well, under the same premise of threat and violence and books, learning, those types of things. So that's basically what Victory is saying. Like that, under those circumstances, is religion, the growth of the religion, worse or better for the whole? I'm pretty sure it's been worse, but I'm just an Indian in northern Ontario, Canada, who lives with dogs and has a beautiful white woman.
Purpose.
Nah, man.
Purpose. Do you think it does matter, you know, to how people become religious? That the method to how they became Christian or Muslim or Jew, does it matter?
Definitely does matter, yeah, because it it shapes how they raise their children and how they project that towards other people. And if people if how they learned it was through violence, they will project that violence towards other people. They will not leave room to learn, and to listen, or to understand, to or to accept a different perspective thereof. And also, this is why I always say about the cause and breaking it down, perhaps in terms of Christianity. For I am a Christian, and I do agree with it, but it's definitely has a catastrophic and disgusting history that we can't run away from. We need to mention these things,
Uh,
but
uh,
you can't.
okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
go on.
I was gonna say to one man, do you think it's a coincidence that here on the panel there are three men who are telling you that the method into how one becomes religious matter as much? Do you think it's a
Yeah,
coincidence that we all
no,
believe?
I don't think it's a coincidence. I
What?
think it. I, yeah, go on. Sorry.
Why don't you? Why do you think? Well, what do you think? Okay, just you
I
speak.
think I think so. I agree with this, but I think the reason to why our initial answers differ is how our epistemological frameworks look.
No, no, I don't think
Um,
that to be true. You see, I
okay,
I
go on.
think I think I don't know how old you are now. Uh,
27.
27. I'm of the age of 31. Okay, and I think it's because of how you were taught. Because usually we mimic what our parents usually teach us, and I can more than one guarantee that the way you were like introduced into the religions, why you are saying the things you are saying, that it doesn't matter how, so long as you get there. So it doesn't matter how you cheat or steal your way, so long as you get there. And I think it is problematic. Oh, Scott is gonna be 48. We're gonna celebrate.
Oh,
I think it's problematic in that regard, that you have to. You see, if you have a country where people have the ideology that you hold, that country will crumble. And the reason why that country will
Saudi
crumble,
Arabia even trembling, but okay.
Saudi Arabians don't. Well, we'll go down Saudi Arabia. They don't have the ideology that you hold, but we'll talk about that
Of
one
course they
later.
do.
No, they
Of
don't.
course they do.
They don't. But hold on. So when you claim that how people become religious doesn't matter, what happens in a turn that you create damaged people? And damaged people create damaged societies. And Somalia, if one might put it, if Somalians were what they are today, out of own volition, Somalia would have been a better place. As you said today, that Somalia is a place where people are doing the same, more of the harm than foreign intervention. It's because of they becoming what they are without their own volition, right? They were forced to become what they are.
But here's a huge problem. You have been doing this the whole time you're speaking. And I think the difference between me and you three guys is that I'm I'm I don't suffer from cognitive. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, anyway.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I still need to say this. I think that I'm more intellectual, honest than you are, and
Mhm.
I don't suffer from cognitive dissonance. You talk about not being forced into things. You talk when I say that this is my epistemological framework. You object and you say no. This is how you have been taught, and you allude to some form of indoctrination. This
Mhm.
is imperialistic rhetoric, whether you like it or
Okay.
not.
Then
Full
then
stop.
in
Can,
that
Wait,
case,
wait,
can
wait.
I
I'm
let's
not
can
done.
I
make
I'm not
like
speak?
done.
No, can I?
let's make an
I'm not done.
experiment. Let me ask you a question, and before we go on. And the thing is this: if you were born right, let's say where Scott is from, what is the likelihood of you becoming a Muslim?
I don't know, but what kind of hypothetical is that? And
No, no, no.
what purpose does that serve? It doesn't serve any
Because you know
purpose.
what the
Yeah,
answer
it
is.
does. A comparison. It draws a comparison across. It does. It matters if you were born in the United States, you'd be less likely to be a Muslim, correct?
Okay,
Unless you're
statistically, yeah, okay, but what kind of purpose does that serve? I don't understand.
well, like we're drawing a comparison across the board. If you were born in Denmark back in the 1300s, you would more than likely be a raised to believe in Odin and Loki. Yes,
Yeah, sure.
sure, yeah, that was right around the time that Christianity came through.
Yeah.
Um, if you were born in Mecca today, the likelihood of you being Islamic and believing in an Islamic, believing in Allah, sorry, um, it would be 100% almost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it does the location of the world and having all of these gods throughout time to believe in, the harm in believing in it is very minute. The harm in spreading it is uh, what would you call what would be a good word to describe that? A given, like the violence and stuff that comes along with that. It's all so it matters the geographical location as to where you're born, as to what God you
I
believe
don't,
in.
so I don't disagree with what you're saying. I fail to understand, however, how that fits into what we said earlier. I don't understand. I still don't understand.
Because now if I'm gonna rephrase, and Itsejazi just joined, and I'm gonna greet him to the panel. Hello, Itsejazi, how do you do?
Hello, hello, Mr. Buchu.
Okay. So back to what I'm saying is this. Okay, we are speaking of the matter in which ideology spread. So in your regard, Islam. Okay, and if not everyone on this panel agrees that the matter of how religion spread is as important as the religion itself. Okay, and you claim that if I do remember correctly, that it doesn't matter that much so far as you are what you are. Okay, and I said that it does matter, and then came the point that if where your geographical location has a direct implement of how you're going to perceive life and what religion you might subscribe to. Okay, so that's the reason why when you go to South Africa, the majority of South Africans are not Muslims. Okay, when you go to the Americas or what do you call it, Argentina, Brazil, the majority of the people are not Muslims, and you claim that there's a cognitive dissidence here, but I'm telling you that these are merely facts, that where you find yourself increase the likelihood of you being one thing or the other. Okay, the likelihood, and I'm gonna say something that is funny. The likelihood of you being an African is more likely to be African if you are from Africa or born in Africa than born in Europe. And that's where I'm going to leave it.
Yeah, still, I understand what you're saying. I agree with it, but my objection is to what, I still don't understand how what you're saying has anything to do with what I said earlier. You said um, um, that I said that the way you convert and how you become religious doesn't really matter. And then you asked this to the other two
And then what we've told you is that it does. It does matter.
and the way you go
So then
by.
you're wrong.
Yeah, but here you have a problem because this is really just going halfway. When you say that it doesn't matter, you need to clarify matter for what and for who, for what purpose. You can't go halfway
Okay.
and assume that we agree on the other half. Matter for what? And matter for who? You need to specify these
Okay.
things. You can't
Okay.
just
Okay.
assume
Let's say
that we have the same point
I,
of view
I,
here.
I understand this. Okay. If a nation becomes religious without their out of their own volition, the likelihood of that nation become to be violent is how do you call it? Threefold.
Yeah, at least 4, 5, maybe.
Okay, I
That's
agree.
what we're
So
saying. If it is done out of their own volition or outside of their own
if
volition.
we if you're still talking about forced conversion, quite early on I said that I don't believe in forced conversions. I
But
don't know
but
what you're
then you
talking.
said
But
it
they
doesn't matter.
exist. It's
But
what
they
we're
exist.
saying.
Okay, and I say, well, let them exist. Well, I can't really
Why?
reason things. I
The
can't do
problem
anything.
is that okay. Why don't you? Okay, it's Hejaz is a Muslim, and I'm gonna ask him this: do you have a problem with people becoming Muslim by force?
Yes, of course.
Why don't you have a problem with people becoming Muslims by force? One.
What the hell? Have said 3 times now, Victor. I don't believe in forced conversions. Do you guys don't hear me? What's going
Or
on here?
you also said that you don't care and it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah,
We're
but then you
telling.
take both
So
statements from.
let me use Trump as an example because fuck that guy, and this is going to make a lot of sense. You are saying that it doesn't matter if it's done by force, as long as it's done and it's for the benefit of your religion. But can you see how if that's these racist, bigoted, religious nutcases down in the southern states, the evangelical Christians, with their ideology and their stupidity and their building an army of evangelical people to bring forth their version of God within the United States, but with the power and authority of the United States. Is that a bad thing? Is that something we should work against?
Well, if you ask me, I'm a Muslim. Of course, I'm gonna say yes. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
There's Christians in this country that believe these people to be um, worthy of a sanitarium. You know, like should we give these people all these? They did somehow. I don't fucking understand how, but they did. They gave them all this power, and all these things are happening, and everybody's scared shitless because we gave the shoulder biters the fucking nuclear codes. You know, the mouth breathers, the uneducated, the ignorant, racist people, the keys to the kingdom.
I was
So
finished. If you want my
that's
answer.
we're trying to identify the idea that maybe possibly hopefully maybe someone will come to the realization that holy shit we're idiots for not recognizing this. We are um, uh, we haven't studied enough history to realize that these things are prolific with uh, throughout our history, throughout everyone's history. Every time this happens, there's a mass kill off, there's a mass die out. In today's technology, it's Armageddon.
I I can't object to anything because I agree with you. The interesting thing here is killing only becomes a problem when it's done by religious lunatics.
That's not what we are
When
saying.
the
That's
when
what
the
we're
White
all saying.
House, what's that?
That's what all been saying. This whole thing is a tool in the kit of colonization.
No, I don't
One
think you understood what I said. I said that you seem to only be problematizing killing when it's done by religious lunatics, but when irreligious lunatics do it, the killing they do and the injustice they and they do doesn't really matter. At least you don't talk
are
about it as
are
length
where
at length the same way you do that.
where in history do you see atheists performing mass deaths and
No,
murders.
Scott, just it, your question is so wrong. It's so
No, no.
historical.
I
Why?
think I
How
think I
many?
think it's possible. You have to understand
It's
that.
not possible. That's like me asking you, guys. You need to be honest. How
There are, I'm
atheism?
an atheist,
Atheism.
man. I don't.
li-
I was raised Catholic. Uh, I'm indigenous, so I didn't like the idea
Okay,
of Catholic
okay.
priests raping our people.
Let me voice my objection so that you
TikTok,
understand why.
TikTok, TikTok.
Let me voice my objection. Right? You ask me where in history do you find atheists doing this? And atheism. When did this whole movement and when did people start become atheists?
When we realized how much killing in God's name there is, you know.
Ah, this word you're using is very loaded. You could have said sometimes during the 19th century, the 18th century. Rather, you said when people realize that religion kills a lot of people. Okay, may I ask you?
Steals a lot
Um,
of land, fucks a
no
lot of
problem.
shit up.
Okay,
Yep.
yep. Well, if you're gonna argue that like that, you're not really doing yourself a favor. Rather, you're digging your own grave because stealing land, the U.S. are very good at stealing land.
Oh,
Killing
tell me
people,
about it.
the
They
U.
stole all of ours.
But,
What's
but
that?
All of
but
it.
that's what we are
They
saying. These are
stole.
Christians doing those things.
Yeah.
Okay, are you telling me that Christians, the last 30, or that the U.S. and the Americans, what they're doing, what they've been doing the last 30 years, geopolitically, is because of the Christian ideology? They steal oil because of the Christian
That's
ideology.
how they. Yeah, man. That's how they justify that shit.
Or you believe
Yes.
this justification?
I
No,
don't know.
listen. I'm the. I would be the Palestinian in the Israeli. Uh, if Israel was equal to Canada, okay, with their
Yeah.
colonizational efforts, my people are the Palestinians that were shoved into these uh, swampland, out of the way places in little isolated prisons in the middle of nowhere, away from everybody.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the perception that I'm coming from, is one of those people in the prison dealing with the systemic poverty, the systemic unemployment, the lack of funding, the lack of political support. Um, I'm that person looking at the country that is Israel around me in Canada, and being pushed in further and farther away. That's the
Sure.
perception I see.
All
I
right.
was raised Christian, Catholic. It was, I guess, that my self realization would have been around 14 when I started reading about these things and came to the conclusion that I'm on the oppressor's side, loving an oppressor's God, and reading the oppressor's information to gain knowledge. That's kind of where I've been. Okay, so in this relation, they've stolen all of our lands. They did all of those things. They killed all of our people. 100 million of us.
I understand all that and I sympathize with you. But to say that the Americans of that time are as Christian or Christian at all today, I think it's a big mistake. They might give you the appearance of being Christian. They might read the Bible here and there. And most of them don't care about Christianity.
Nope.
They don't care about the Bible. They don't care
Yeah,
about the
they're
teachings.
all hypocrites. All of them.
Yeah,
Yep,
but
I agree
well,
with you.
if you agree with me, then why are you taking religion into this discourse if religion doesn't, if they're hypocrites?
Because they're all hypocrites. All of them. Doesn't matter what religion you're following. If they have a God in Jerusalem that tells them that they can kill Palestinian people at will because they're not Jewish, then there is no God. That's that's the way it's got to be, and we have to come to some sort of realization within humanity that God is an ideology, something supposed to promote love and prosperity for everybody, you know, equality and understanding of intelligence and social thinking,
Obviously, I'm gonna
you
object
know.
to that. I
But
don't
it,
believe that God is an ideology.
well,
But,
really,
but of course, I'm a Muslim. But
peace,
I,
love.
I, I believe that the discussion has been so
Does
diluted.
Allah
Let's
not preach peace and
let's
love?
bring it back, guys. Let's. Oh, sorry. I muted myself. I was saying
Are
let's
you
bring it
saying
back.
that Allah does not
Let,
promote peace
let
and love?
let's bring it
Oh, he
back.
does.
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back, guys. So that we can move on. You know, now we've been here for 2 hours plus, so you know it's about time to tackle the questions on the board so that we can back into you know the conversation. So I want to start with the last one, right? Is religion about belief, behavior, identity, or all three?
I would say all three.
Mhm,
And of course, with the religion, or yeah, and I'm a Muslim. So with Islam comes a belief package you must
mhm.
adhere to, and you must take all of it. You can't take just 80% of it, or 60%, or 10%, or and reform parts of it. The whole package of beliefs you must have. You have to take all of it, and on top of that, and the Sharia, the and the moral compass that comes with the religion forces you to behave in some way. When Allah tells you to be kind, to be just, no matter what X, Y, Z, it alters your previous behavior into something which is more Sharia compliant. With all that, you forge a new identity. You might have been someone else, and now you become someone else. If we by identity, and with identity mean that which makes you you, that which identifies you as who you are, and then the identifiers that are shared by Muslims, and no matter who they are, no matter their cultural background, their ethnicities, you are likely to see and recognize a Muslim as a Muslim, especially the woman because they wear the hijab. But even a man, if he has the ability to let the beard grow, you will recognize that this man has a white, he's a large beard. And although a lot of people, might like a large beard, this is something which is more prone to be done by Muslims. The way he might act, so the religion affects all these things. I would say.
I, for one, will say this, unless anyone want to go before I do. But I do understand what you claim that it's all three. But then came previously when we speak about the behavior of people who, let's say, hold the view of Islam. Let's say an Islamic person should do something that will be seen as publicly immoral or very, very bad. And then there's always the rhetoric that no, he is not a Muslim for because if he was a Muslim, he wouldn't do the things that he did. Let's say should do something and attack on people, i.e., what happened today. Many people will claim he might not be a Muslim. Okay, so is there a definitive uh, way, like a mock-up, a manuscript of what or how a Muslim is supposed to behave?
Most definitely, there is. They should be kind. They should.
In
Uh,
where are they stated? I want to. Uh,
you have the Quran. Allah says in Surah
do you know?
Al-Mumtahana.
Okay,
Yes,
let me find it. Where?
in Surah Al-Mumtahana. I don't know the number of that chapter. It's the could it be 58? No, it can't be 58. Can it? 59. Give me a second.
Okay, Mr. Ejazi, do you have where it's stated what a Muslim is supposed to be like?
Yes.
from the
Yeah.
Quran or from the Hadith?
Um, Either way, wherever it's
Yeah,
stated.
you have for example, you have for example from Surah Al-Baqarah, verse point 83, where it says they have to speak kindly to people. You have to establish zakat. You have to give zakat and establish prayer. You have, for example, in Surah An-Nisa 436, where it says you have to be kind to your parents, relatives, orphans. You have, for example, in Surah Al-Fusilat 4134, where you have to be like, you have to repel from the evil, and you have to show that you are good, and you have to like show people your behavior, like because you, like you said from the start, we represent the religion, right? So
Hmm.
we have to act in a certain way so people can see our behavior, not just we can't just hide our good behavior, but we have to show it as well. You know what I mean? And we have, for example, in Surah Al Qasas 2877, when it says, "Do good as Allah has been good to you." So it's not just like, so we have to be like grateful for that what God have given us, and we have to be grateful for other people. Like we have to speak kindly to them. We have to be like good to them as God has been good to us. You know what I mean? That, that's how I know my resources.
Those are beautiful things, and I will make a joke that they are ultimately in line with human rights. Just to make a joke, but uh, right. But I want to ask a question. Is there an obligation, right, for a Muslim to correct other Muslims when they are wrong?
Most definitely. Allah says in the Quran, يا أيها كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. You are the best nation amongst the nations, meaning you amongst all the people on earth. You, Ummah Muhammad, the people of Muhammad, are the best. Why? Because uh, you you enjoin and command people to do good, and you prohibit them from doing evil. And the Mufassirun, the learned men say that this, because Allah has phrased Himself this way in the Quran, this means that previous nations did not do this. They might have done it, an individual, but in like a society, a nation, they didn't do this, and didn't. It was never a command for them. So, I, as a Muslim today, if I see my brother here, Hijazi, he steals. I say, Hijazi, what are you doing? This is haram. And then I take whatever he's stolen, the stolen goods, I take them from him, and then I warn him, and then we go back to whoever he has stolen them from, and we give them back. So yes, it's not just about me doing my duty as
Hmm.
as in not doing bad things. If I see another Muslim doing bad things, I must stop. Also, if I see a non-Muslim doing bad things, it is within the nature of the Sharia to also tell him what you're doing is not good. However, I can't really talk to him the same way I talk to a Muslim because he doesn't believe in Allah. So I can't say to him, "Hey, yo, stealing is haram. Don't do that." I might go to him and talk in another manner and say, stealing is not good. What about if this was your father's company, your mother's company, your sister's company, you stole the goods, and now it's in financial loss. I try to make try to make talk to them in a way that they understand it from a different angle. But yeah, I think I answered your question.
Of course, I do understand what you're saying in regards to that. Yes, you have to. But the thing is, I for one will say that I don't see more of it. The reason why I don't see more of it is because, and this is my eye, what I've witnessed with my own eyes, that I don't see Muslims encouraging in more Muslims to do good, and that's what I'm talking about, the global scale. Because if that was the case, we will see less Muslim countries in shitholes. If I should put it that way, or am I wrong in my judgment?
You're wrong, and the two things I want to say. I'm
Hmm.
gonna start with the second thing. I think you need to be aware because I like you. You're very respectful and
Hmm.
genuine. So I think the way you judge things, you need to go over your methodology and how you judge things
Hmm.
because um, we're not binary machines. When I go to Friday sermon and the sheikh tells me to not steal, uh, he can't just go into my brain and change an algorithm and then I will stop stealing. Rather, we are moral subjects, And at the end of the day, we can always do whatever we want to do. It doesn't matter what the Quran says. It doesn't matter what the Sheikh says. If I if my inner self doesn't want to adhere to these teachings, then I will do whatever I want to do. So you can't use the current status quo of how Muslim nations look and what Muslims do as a
Mhm.
proof or evidence or receipt on that, and the Muslims themselves don't command good. We Muslims command good.
Let,
Of course,
let's.
the way we do it. Let's just limit it down.
Mhm.
The way we do it might differ depending on who we talk to. I will not talk to my mother the same way I talk to my brother. Obviously, as an African, you can appreciate this. And when we go to mosques, the sheikh, every Friday sermon, we command good. And in secret, in private, we command good and forbid evil. Publicly, we command good. The question at hand is, you said that you haven't seen it. The
Mhm.
question is, how hard have you looked? And how have you looked? Where have you looked? Yes.
Okay. I have seen uh, prior to coming to Europe, right? I had a perception of what Islam is, and that's what I say what a Muslim is as a Ghanaian. Then I came to Europe. Then I got to witness, let me say, for example, Palestinian Muslims, Somali Muslims, and these are different kind of Muslims to what I'm accustomed to. Okay, and then I ask myself the question, why are they so different? You know, what creates the difference? In Ghana, we are anti-colonial, regardless. So that means everything you do shouldn't be oppressive. And if you read or listen to the Ghanaian national anthem, it's there on black and white. Anti-colonial. Oppression is one thing we do not accept. But then I look at Muslim nations, especially the ones that are in Africa, and the ones that have had a colonial past and having dealt with their colonial past and try to move forward. And this is one thing that is problematic to all African nations across the board, regardless of religion. That if we do not deal with the colonial trauma or colonial wounds, whether we slap Islam as a plaster or Christianity as a plaster, it won't fix the problem. It rather intensifies the problem. Okay, that means, and this means saying that Islam or Christianity is not the fix to the wounds that are present, that we have currently. Okay, but here is the notion that we are either blind to the truth that we think religion is a magical fix for our issues, and I, for one, will say, as Africans who have suffered the wounds of colonialism, we are not yet there to be a perfect nation. That we have a lot of work to do. And in order to us to achieve that work, first we have to find the humanity in each other. That is the first step. So whether you have a religion that tells you you have to do this, you have to ask a question. What is the end game? Would this give me the result that I need? Because if that was true, we'll have a more sustainable Africa. We'll have better nations. But then it comes to a point where, and this is what I'm going to say, that this is why Christianity keeps changing multiple times, because, and that's what Christians say, that, oh, we need to change to meet how can I say, modern day, how will I say it, problems. That's why Christianity keeps altering itself to meet. That's why you have thousands, countless of denominations, and Islam refuses. Okay, then begs the question. Okay, is Islam a plaster, or, if I was saying, a solution to fix all problems?
Most definitely. However, there's nothing magical about it. Islam can only fix Islam as a religion. I think it's important to always differentiate between the actual theory of things and the practices and those who are the practitioners, the one who do things.
Mhm,
The
mhm,
Quran itself cannot do much. The same way a book on and the best neurosurgical techniques can't do much. Texts can't do much. The only thing that can do much are the ones who practice what the texts are doing. Islam, if and practiced this the way the Salaf al-Salih, the Prophet and the three and consequent. What's the word? My English is not my native language. Consecutive, yes, the
Hmm.
three consecutive generations after the Prophet. These are the ones we call the Salaf. If Islam was practiced today, yeah, the same way Muslims practiced their religion during that time, the Muslim countries and the Muslim Ummah would be the most prosperous and the best countries on planet Earth. Christians and Jews and atheists would probably leave their countries and come to us. Unfortunately, you have a Muslim. He says, I bear witness that Allah is my God and that the Prophet Muhammad is my messenger. Ah, and then he goes and sells the blood of his brethren in Palestine, in Sudan, in Yemen. He goes and sells the blood of people who are his brothers in humanity in other African nations. He, instead of fighting injustice, creates more injustice. How can a how can humanity prosper when people do these kind of things? And I have a huge problem, and I believe Hijaz also has a problem with this. We Muslims, we need to better ourselves, and that's why and my goal is to teach my children the true face of Islam. The same way Hijaz, he wants to teach his children the true ways of Islam. And we can only do our part of the job. I can't go and teach and all inhabitants or all Muslims on this planet the true way. Even if I tell them and teach them, there's no guarantee that they will actually adhere to what I'm doing. Some people might actually want to hurt me and kill me if I were to speak to them. So you need to be a bit more nuanced. Just
Hmm.
because we Muslims claim that Islam is the true religion with the solutions to everything from the true God, that doesn't mean anything if the Muslims don't do what they ought to do.
You know,
I have a question for you.
okay, go.
Um, why is it then, if what you've said a lot of interesting things, and why then do we find that many of the other really other Muslim country other Muslim people that are war torn, or let's say that, are running to Europe and Americas in search for something? Why are they not going to the Middle East? Why are they not going to Dubai, Kuwait, you name them, the rich guys, the Arab money guys? Why are they not going there to their friends that look like them, that practice the same religion, that have the same beliefs? They don't have to go to Europe and impose Islam on the Europeans or the Americans. Why don't you? Why don't we? Why don't you as Muslims? I don't want to point to anything. I'll say as we. Why don't we as Muslims stay in our countries or stay or go to people that are like us? It's much more easier, I believe, to function and to expand our ideology and to just let it grow and nurture it more better. I think the whole goal of life is bettering yourself. And so if I want to completely better myself, I'd say I'll go to a place where everybody's Muslim like me, where everybody follows the law that I think is perfect, of what we perceive as perfect or correct and right. Why then do you see this expansionist behavior in Europe and across the globe? This bit of invasive behavior, and a certain language that promotes a bit of sense of violence. It's very subtle, but it's very clear.
That's a beautiful question. I'm not gonna lie. However, I will note that you're still using loaded words. I don't believe that the prime um, and that the prime what are they called? Um,
Intention?
Not the intention. These people who flee war. What are they called?
Refugees?
Refugees. I don't believe that the prime refugees who left their countries to Europe, that their sole purpose or their main purpose and their primary purpose was, let's go to Europe and Islamize the continent. I don't think that that was their first and primary intention. I think they just wanted to save their lives.
Hmm.
However, you're pointing to a very interesting thing here. And now I'm going to say something. I believe that the mass emigration and the mass and this mass fleeing and of Muslims to Europe is the single most damaging thing that has happened to Muslims in the history of Islam ever since the Prophet has died. Why? Because this has created many issues. I am a Somali. My parents came to, I'm not gonna dox myself, but they came to Europe, a country here in Europe, and they fled here. Would it have been better for them and to maybe go to a neighboring country, even if it wasn't Muslim, a Christian country, not at war with itself or anyone, and not oppressive? I would say yes, it's better. Why? Because with time, they can still go back to their country or they can find another neighboring Muslim country. The mass immigration of Muslims to non-Muslims is a huge problem. It's a huge problem for the Muslims and it's a huge problem for the non-Muslims. And I side with the right-wing extremists on this, who say that Islam is not compatible with Western liberalism and democracy. Of course, it's not. Anyone who says that it is a hypocrite. And anyone who seeks to make these things too compatible is my number one enemy. I'm not interested in reforming Islam to make it more suitable for the white Caucasian male and more compatible with Western liberalism. And you said, why don't they go back, or why don't they at least immigrate to their brethren in Dubai, in Riyadh, these Arab countries? The answer, my dear purpose, brother, is these Arabs, they're not that interested in bringing people into their country. The white man was. The white man brought planes, they had visas, they gave people refugee status, and they took people into their country. Am I going to say that they were wrong? That they were stupid, that they were dumb, that they were irrational, that they shouldn't have done so? No. Why? At the end of the day, people were fleeing war. We need to appreciate that war is war and people die, and you take necessary steps to preserve your life and your family. However, I would have liked that instead of the Christian or the secular nations doing this, the Muslims would have done this instead of the Saudi, in the Khalij countries, even Pakistan. As a Somali, if Pakistan and Karachi and Islamabad invited me instead of in London, I would have gone to Islamabad. It's better for me to be and in Pakistan and then not so well off than to be in London well off, but my children are taught LGBTQ stuff. They're taught liberalism. They're taught so many things that I'm against. And then this, as we have seen, has created tensions in the West. It would have been far better for East Africans and for Syrians to have fled to Muslim countries. But the head of states of these countries don't want them. The logical follow-up question would be, why do they not want their Muslim brethren if Islam is so
Okay,
loving?
sorry. Can you just be conscious? Can you just keep it? Just
Sorry.
cut, 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 cut it, cut to the chase. Just get to the point. I understand what you're saying. So the whole truth here is that you owe more your loyalty to a white man in this case, and like to your fellow brethren, people that look like you, or people that support a similar religion. And we can say now today in today's world that the white man is doing a great job. They've done an exemplary, a perfect job because they saved our lives literally. I don't want to other you. I can say they saved your lives, you Muslims. I'll just say they saved our lives as Muslims because then they protected us from our brothers who are, who are definitely our enemies. This is very interesting.
Did you say we're more loyal? What did you say at the beginning of what you said?
I would just say this. Listen,
You said something I didn't really understand, or I didn't hear that clearly.
That
I think do you understand what I'm trying to say, Victory? You people on the panel understand what I'm trying to
Yeah, you,
communicate.
you are more of the at the mercy, if I say, to the white man than your fellow. Like it's more,
Definitely.
yeah. It's better. Like the white people are acting more like Muslims than other Muslims. When you look at countries like Sweden, for example, who take tons of Muslims from war-torn countries, and that's what many Swedish people are saying, that have we taken enough? And how did we refugees went from being refugees into what Sweden is, into this term? And it's like it's one thing that it speaks perfectly on the fourth topic about behavior, and that's what I've said multiple times to the gentleman that was on earlier, and to you too, that your behavior speaks loudly about you as a person. You are an ambassador to your religion, same when I'm ambassador to the country and all African people. If I'm a good African, People see, okay, African are good people. If I'm a good Christian, if I'm a good Muslim, people was like, yeah, he's a good one. He's a good Muslim, and because it's necessary. Or else people are gonna shut you at the door. If there were no good Muslims, I guarantee you, Europeans will not open their door to Muslim refugees because there's like, no, we are inviting the problem. But just because of their Muslims, like Mr. Hejazim there himself, which are good, they open their doors to more refugees that are Muslims. That is why I tell you about the way you word yourself, the way you speak. Listen, there are a lot of things that happen in European countries that I personally don't agree with. Ideologies, I don't agree with you. But one thing we have to understand that we are guests in someone else's lands. If I don't like the way things are traversing, you can always go back to where you come from. If it comes to the point where I don't like it, I have to go back, you know, to where I reside. But I'm not gonna try to change the people for it to benefit me. If they believe that this was what it was necessary for them to thrive as a nation, then do that. Mind you, listen, Europeans or Norway, for example, opening its border, or Sweden, to refugees, they believe that it is beneficial to us to open our doors to these refugees. If that change, I'm not gonna say they are racist or anything. That is, things have changed. Now they have done their deed. Someone else should carry the mantle. As you said, Arab nations and so on must carry this. But one thing I also think I see less of is when Muslims tend to try to correct other people. Because in Norway, for example, in Sweden, we see people that burn the Quran in protest of the Islamization in Europe. Then I speak to myself that what benefit do you gain from burning a Quran? You know, out of rather than public provocation, that you provoke people to a degree where you spark conflict and if I say violence. Then I ask myself, and a friend of mine was actually more vocal about it, and he actually went to approach this guy, and the guy sprayed substance. I don't remember whether it was a spray paint or something, but I think it was orange that actually impacted his vision. Then I asked myself, was it worth it? Was the action that you took to protect the Quran, was it worth it? He couldn't answer me because I told him there and there you could have lost your vision. And I was saying this that as a person who is an immigrant, mind you, I'm not a Muslim. When a Muslim, and we in Norway we had this terrorist attack that happened. I can guarantee you, every foreigner, regardless whether you are Muslim or not, was like, listen, I hope it's not another foreigner who did these atrocities, because the aftermath of and the consequences impacts everyone, regardless of whether you are Muslim or not. So when I see Muslims are violent to other people, I voice my concern. When I see Muslim children in the shopping malls trying to be gangsters, I voice my concern that as a Muslim, as a group of Muslims, you should do better. That's what I tell them. Because if we don't, who else is going to do the things? Because I don't see other people doing it. So I always tell them, go home, go to your parents, you know. So your behavior matters, and I think I want to see more of that. That people um, indoctrinate their children to act better, regardless of their belief that your behavior is a paramount to how people perceive you. Because if the way I word myself didn't move you, you wouldn't have joined this life. You're like, that's an idiot, I'll never. So the way we carry each other, ourselves, is very, very important. So yeah, as for me, I would say that the behavior, in many regards, matter almost as much as religion itself.
I
If
agree with you.
if it's age as he wants to tackle the fourth question.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Victor. But I think, like, in the matter of fact, that when you live in a world where we think that religion can fix everything, that's unrealistic. Because yeah,
Thank you.
you have a perfect religion, but you don't have perfect people. Like, if I'm a Muslim, for example, I'm gonna sin. I'm gonna do stuff, and I know I'm gonna do this stuff. Like, I'm maybe gonna hurt some other people. I'm gonna hurt myself. I know I'm gonna do mistakes because I'm imperfect. Even though my book says you have to do things and you have to do that, you have to be good in that way, and you have to honor people in that way. There's not always there's not always that people are gonna follow these
Scriptures.
scriptures.
Yes.
They are not gonna like follow 100%. So that we humans are not perfect. Even though if that one man he said once before, like even Muslims took over the whole world, yeah, it's not gonna be perfect because there are imperfect people. Like people are, it's unrealistic to say if everyone follows one religion it's gonna be perfect. We are gonna live in a perfect world because no, people are gonna people don't necessarily believe in that religion. They're of course gonna go against it, and it might be some bloodshed, as you said. And it's we are imperfect, and to believe like people are gonna follow the scriptures 100%, it's never gonna happen. So yeah, of course, if you want me to answer um, the fourth question, I believe, yeah, of course, like Islam is all of these three. I'm thinking about Islam now because I'm a Muslim. That's what I'm going to answer for. I can't answer for Christianity. You can get someone else. You can get your little brother. But yeah, I believe like belief is something that's the root. You have to believe to like to contribute to all the things like that. The iman of that thing you like, if the religion, that's the root of all things. You know what I mean? That's the six pillars in faith of faith we have in our religion, and the heart of Islam. That's the belief. And the second thing, like the a'mal, the behavior, that the a'mal and the akhlaq, you can think about the root and the fruit. You know that comes above the root. So you have to like you have to have those two things to contribute the third one, and the identity, the ummah, the framework, the things you do, the the global community. Like Islam gives a collective identity that transcends race, nationality, and social status. You know what I mean? A way of life. For example, Islam provides a distinct legal and social structure. As one man was talking about Sharia, right? That guy's daily like routines, dress, like choices, what's halal, what's not. It's all about like, for example, social contracts about how to like creating a clear shared identity to each other. It's how we connect. So everything of those three, like the belief, the behavior, and the identity, every one of them connect with each other, and they have to go like in a parallel line with each other. So like the religion can work. That's my answer to it.
Mm, it's a beautiful explanation, and I do agree with the knowledge that I have of Islam that yes, that is true. But then, as you say, and one thing I like that you said was that it is we are imperfect people, and therefore, when you expect imperfect people to do the impossible, that is when madness happen. You know, at least you have a notion that even if everyone was Muslim, we're still gonna have problems because of our upbringing and so on. And it's one thing that I like and I hope and I wish more people had that same thinking that yes, when if I'm a good person, then I'm a good Muslim. If I'm a shit person, then I'm a shit Muslim, and that is the bottom line, right? And I think people should. And this is what I hear from people who do preach and stuff that sometimes some people oversell the capability of Muslims. If it makes sense, like people put Muslims on so high pedestal that it's impossible for any Muslim to achieve these things. That Muslims are never wrong, are never this, are never that. So then, when Muslims are wrong, all of a sudden, Muslims become a laughing stock. You see what I'm saying? That we have to um, rephrase our word and reframe our word within what is real and reality, as Mr. Hedges has said. And I'm gonna leave it to that, and we can move on. If anyone wants to say anything, feel free. If not, then we can move on to the next. Uh,
Sorry, yeah, if I could, while one man was talking, I was just putting notes because I'm doing this on my phone and I don't have a notebook handy to keep track. So I was just making notes in the comment section. As he was talking about how the Muslims have a shared God, a shared agenda, a shared enemy, shared book. Um, Division of people by religion means division of humanity, because I was saying that because the Christian book is the very same thing, right? Like, so the division of sides, Muslims, Christians, back and forth throughout time, um, it's proving to be destructive on its own. One says that everyone needs to follow their God. Their God is the one true God. Everyone else is saying that their God is the one true God, and the suffering continues. This is kind of why I wanted to point out for question number 3 why I'm spiritual and not religious, and it's because religion is where critical thought goes to die, and I just wanted to say that real quick as to the inability for mankind to become more humane, more in touch with nature and the living world around us, the connections that we have with other living species on the planet. Without that, humanity will die. And hopefully the earth will live on. We don't kill it first, but that's basically where I see our future going with this as our current course of action. Muslim, Christian, Muslim, Christian, wars, death, genocide. All in the name of God. This is why I'm telling you, like, religion, whatever religion, evangelical, Pentecostal, Baptist, whatever hypocritical religion anyone ever follows, Muslim, it's all designed for division. It always has been since the days of King James and Salahuddin. Um, these things have been happening for a very long time. It has always been about division, and humanity will never truly have a hold within ourselves until we realize this. So, from Anishinaabe territory in Canada, Bamapi, good talking to you guys again. I gotta head out. Cheers.
Cheers to you, Scott, and nice having you, man. It's I know it's morning and it's hard for you to participate as you wish, but yeah, one of these days I'll try to. As I told you, topics you want to speak about, then we can talk about it because I want to talk about the things you also want to talk about. I'm almost tired of
Nice
talking about
having
the
you,
things
Scott.
I want to talk about. Sorry?
Yes,
And I
good.
said nice having you, Scott.
Absolutely, one man. Good talking to you. I loved listening. Sorry, I wasn't. This communication device isn't always the best means of communication, but we're making it work. And as long as the conversation continues, the world will be a better place one day, hopefully. Okay, bamapi, which is goodbye in my language.
About my P.
Goodbye, bye.
So yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. My microphone's on. Yeah. So let's move on. Let's move on to, we usually I do the like one man, I do this live for 3 hours and we actually near the 3 hour mark, and
That's
yeah.
lovely, man. That's great,
No,
man.
no, no, but it's like doing it for 3 hours it's talking for 3 hours is hard. I'm telling you.
It's hard. It's hard.
It's hard to sit and talk to for 3 hours. You never know who is watching. And regardless of where you fall on the spectrum of communication, you will gain people when you will lose people in the way you speak when you talk about these things. And I know some of the people that I will lose respect sometimes and gain respect sometimes, but then eventually people go deeper within themselves and actually think about the things that I say, and then come back to me with different understanding that I understand now why you say this, and so do I when people tell me things that usually I can't sometimes comprehend or understand at that very moment, but then after I do get an understanding of what people are talking about, and I come back with better understanding, and I reframe the way I speak, that it will my points will be understood. And mind you, listen, one, that if it regardless of my views, people that know me, whether Muslims or Christian, know these views, right? And I tell them about these things, about my life experience. You see, when you're debating against life experiences, you can't never win because those life experiences are real and true. You can't deny one's life experience without gaslighting them. Okay, and that is one thing that I try to avoid, to gaslight people from their worldview. And there are people who have witnessed beauty in the eyes of Islam, in the hands of Islam. People have witnessed horrific things. This likewise the way I've witnessed horrific things in the hands of Christians in Christianity. But yet again, I do find ways to live with these people that I do disagree with. Purpose and I, we don't disagree. Mr. Hijazi and I, we disagree on many levels. But the fundamental reason to why we coexist is that we believe in the common human rights that we have. I had to bring it back just to make a joke to you.
Uh, you know, the topic after that got diluted, but I think that discussion was really good, and I think if I were to press you more on that, because I can be frank and I can say my end goal with that topic is, and a lot of atheists and a lot of agnostics, they have a problem with and adopting violence when it comes to reaching certain goals, especially when religious people do that, whether they are
Mhm,
lunatics or not. They have
mhm.
a problem with this, the element of violence, and I believe that this is very hypocritical, because I can prove to the atheist himself that there are certain core principles he believes in, that he would be ready to kill people for and go
Mhm.
to war for, and in defending. So it's really not about, and this is where I believe that the
You should
discussion
have
needs to
said that.
level up.
I do agree with you, right? There are
Yeah,
some things that are not achievable without smacking a few people in their face. That is true and has been true through the course of human history. But then it comes to a point where it goes unchecked, because we have to understand that there has to be a necessity for it, a reason for it to happen. There have to be a stomach for it. But when it happens just because, you know, and that's where, stupidity starts. That it has to happen within a nice framing, and that's what I said, and I use the word procedure, proper procedure, that it has to
yeah,
happen within the proper procedure. Then
yeah.
it is okay. But without that, and that's why I always say that I do agree with you, but then it comes to the way we frame that statements, and that is the difference between where you place the comma, that dot, that dash, that hyphenate, that change the entire understanding of the statement. And that's actually my point. And I do agree with you with that point of that sometimes you have to smack it. That's how Ghana achieved independence. We didn't achieve independence because we were nice. Nelson Mandela didn't achieve what he achieved because he was nice. He did things with pew pews and boom booms just to achieve those things. So yes, I do agree with you, but it's like it is the way we frame
I
those
agree.
things.
And
Yes,
can I add something? And this is, and here is the, this is where things become really interesting, because it all becomes and comes down to a discussion about who gets this authority and where do they derive the authority from. And I can say this, and I would be much more dangerous for my co-human if I wasn't Muslim, and then if I'm Muslim. I
that
can
is
say that.
okay.
I can say that frankly. Why? I have not. a lot of things I do, I still believe I'm a human being.
Hmm.
I don't like to do certain things. I'm not gonna mention names because TikTok language, but I will not do certain crimes. Certain crimes, however, I would do 100%, and I wouldn't care about the harm principle, how this would affect someone else. But at the end of the day, I would only care about myself. However, I don't think that way today. Why? Because of the Sharia and Allah. When
I.
you're an atheist, well,
Hmm.
I want to connect this to your worldview. When you're an atheist
Hmm.
and you say, yes, I agree with you, but there is a huge and, if here, and it is who does it, and what's the framework, what's the proper procedure, and all these things, it becomes really tough for me to accept that you or someone else has the right to tell me what to do merely because you have deluded yourself to believing that the dictatorship is good or democracy is good and you derive your power from democracy. I have a hard time understanding that. And in a way, I understand why certain people, why certain civilizations have done what they done, have done throughout the course of history. Because if you don't believe in God and you see yourself as the the prime authoritarian subject, then you would do whatever you want to do. I don't like this illusion that the West is trying to sell. Oh, nothing is good. Oh, blah blah. We need to be kind. Blah blah. But then they are behind the scenes and under the table, they are actually determining everything. It's not good.
Yeah, I do agree with you that the Europeans are two-sided, like a dagger in the ways they approach things and do things. They only do things that benefit them. And since this is your first time, I think you've not heard me saying it. We have lives where we talk. We talked about Westernization, we talk about Arabization, we talk about all these things. And here,
I'm gonna follow you because I really like it. I want to have more discussion
yeah,
with you.
likewise. And today the topic falls onto this one. And I do have friends. Sometimes I run the questions by them, especially those who are Muslim, to make sure that I don't trigger people. And people tell me, no, you can't. You should frame it rather this way. And I do that so that I can have an honest conversation about this. Because listen, regardless whether we like it or not, the actions of a Muslims and affect me, especially when we live in a foreign lands. So whether I'm a Muslim or not, it is my obligation to make sure Muslims do good. Because if not, I will suffer. Because to the people who own the land, they don't care. You're all the same in their eyes. You understand? And that is why also I was telling you the things that I was telling you. It's just pure love. At the end of the day, we want to to see each other thrive and coexist together.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Uh, now we're probably gonna end this live now, so I'm gonna follow you, and I've followed you. And the next time you come alive, I don't know. You probably have your own schedule, your own programs, but hopefully we can delve into this topic, which I believe is one of the most Yeah.
What you want to do is this: if there are topics you want to talk about, and usually I structure the life the same way: four questions on the board that would strike deep conversation. We can communicate in the background so that we can talk more about those things. You understand? So that if you do wish, we can have it, but you just have to come let me know, and we can structure it in the same way. So if there are specific questions you want me to put on the board, because then we can bring in more people who might agree
Ah,
or disagree with us.
yeah, that sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Can I ask you? Are you gonna go now? Can I ask you the
No, no,
question?
no. I have time. I have time.
Okay. So one thing I find really interesting when it comes to
Hmm.
the liberal
Hmm.
West is they look at these refugees, and they come in, they naturalize them, they give these people citizenships, and then in after one generation, 1 or 2 decades, problems arise pertaining to integration, assimilation, and you're not ignorant of this. I assume
Hmm.
in almost every European country, especially the Westerners,
Hmm.
like the West Europe. The Eastern Europe hasn't taken in that many refugees, so they don't have this problem.
Yeah.
But Western Europe do have this. You have Scandinavia, you have London,
Hmm.
in the UK, you have all these countries, and they talk about these refugees. They're coming here, and they want to change our society. They want to
Hmm.
change the way we live their lives. I have a question here, which is, isn't liberal democracy all about the people? And isn't the power, the authoritative power, and deriving from the people? If that is so, then how come someone comes to a liberal democracy and then he gets accused for trying to change the liberal democracy when the tenets, when the core ideas of liberalism and democracy is that the people and shape the nation? Isn't this hypocritical? And I'm even gonna allude to this. Is the white man not a racist and an imperialist when he accuses a refugee of trying to shape a liberal democracy, when it is in fact the liberal right of this refugee now, or the second generation immigrant, or the third, to be able to partake in the democracy and shape the country however they want. Why? Because they are a liberal agent, and it is within the nature of liberalism and democracy that you can start a party and propose ideas, and if you get the popular vote, you are voted into parliament and you can change the country. Isn't that the whole idea with democracy? If the answer is no, only some people are allowed to change the country and shape it and others are not, then my friend Victor, you should have a big problem with this, especially as an anti-colonialist.
You see, the
Is it a
issue.
valid question? Is it a
No, no,
valid question?
it is a valid question, but it's like when you frame the question so long, it becomes hard to answer, because then,
I know
because
it's quite
yeah,
intentional. Sorry.
because then no, no, but because it's like multiple question in one, so it's hard to answer them. So it's like usually it's better to structure it in the same, like in shorter segments, so that it's easier for people to answer. For me, I would say this: the reason to why um, many European nations who take in refugees um, tend to prevent them from participating in politics in the regard that they want to do is this. You know, democracy, for example, counts the majority. So if you live in a nation where, let's say, the majority are British, then you go to what the majority want to do. Okay. But then it begs the question, and I think every Muslim should be honest in this one. If these European countries become more Islamic, will you have the same benefits that you enjoy? And that's an honest question, because I, for one, don't think it is possible to achieve, because the reason to how you are able to enjoy the luxury as a Muslim in these countries is because of the way that they are. The reason why I don't attempt to change things is because I enjoy the luxuries and my people enjoy the same luxury. That's why I don't try to change. Because if I change, then there will be less of me coming in. I'll say, since I'm a good one, I can't guarantee that the next person is gonna be as good as I am. So shut the doors, deal with me. You know what I mean? Yeah, and that's another question that I think we should talk about next live is about transforming a European nation to become Islamic. Will it be beneficial? I don't know if you bear with me with that question. That
It's an
even
interesting
even
question.
the question would even Muslims want that.
Yes, it's an interesting question. I would be very cautious and wary of saying that it would definitely become better because you have Muslim countries like my home country, Somalia, who is
Mhm.
100% Muslim, which is not that well off. So I'm gonna be very cautious. I'm not gonna say that just
For
because
me,
some, yeah.
even from that, even without even diving there, the reason why I know it's gonna be problematic is this. First and foremost, Islam practice what we know as segregation, okay, of male and female. In many nations, especially Ghana, our economy is driven by our women. Okay, that means if our women stop doing whatever they are doing, our economy will collapse.
Yeah.
That is like the problem of many of these Western nations, that if mind you, it was driven by men. So if it was an Islamic um, nation prior to or then when men were doing everything, then it would have been what it is. But if it comes a point where it is segregated, a lot of things that we find to be luxury and jobs will vanish because it will either be seen as immoral or whatever. You understand?
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I really gotta go. Yeah, I've actually been working the whole time, and now I got an errand, so, so I really gotta go. But I'm gonna leave you with this.
You still in job time. You still in job time.
Yeah, I'm still in job time. And do you think it's illiberal for the liberal West to infringe and to restrict and these type of changes? You say, and you alluded to the majority. If we're gonna listen to the majority, then I could argue that the women getting the right to vote shouldn't have happened because the majority of the people during that time, especially in Sweden and Scandinavia, they didn't want to give women their right back. Women took, they had demonstrations and they put a lot of effort into changing that. Are we always going to look at the majority or what has precedence? And this is an interesting thing because right wing extremists are becoming more and more nationalist. And you have these waves of nationalism across all of Europe. And this begs the question, what has precedence in Europe? Is it democracy or is it nationalism? Meaning, is it more important for, let's say, Sweden to be a democratic nation, or is it more important for Sweden to preserve the Swedish identity or culture?
Mm.
If you say it's more important to preserve the Swedish identity and culture, even if it costs and if it has democratic costs, as in restricting people and whatnot, then you open the door to Pandora's box, and you find yourself down the route of making very illiberal infringements and for the purpose of nationality.
Mm. Those are valid questions, and do write them down so you don't forget, so that we can have a conversation about them next week. I hope I'll be able to do next Sunday. Let's see. It's more likely that I'll be able to do next Sunday. I do them on Sundays. Same
Okay,
time you found
so
me is usually.
next Sunday I'm free, so
Yeah, so
I
I
will
think we'll
be
be able to,
able.
but do how call it, sketch up questions like these four, and we can
Okay,
have debates around them like this one.
yes,
So you
I like it
basically
that
run the
I like
live.
it. Yeah, I like it that you call me my uncle. But you know, in Somali culture, I'm younger than you, so I'm supposed to call you my uncle.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. All right.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
out of respect. Much love. Thank you, Mr. Victor.
Likewise, likewise. So people that have loved this life, liked, it's been very, very interesting conversation, and I love this type of interesting conversation, and it's good that people are honest at the end of the day, and that we find the root of the way we think, and find that in many cases we find out that we are more similar than we are apart, and that's always a good thing when it happens like today. So, as people know, every Sunday we are here from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock for 3 hours. We are here talking about things that actually don't matter, but we are still talking. But, anyways, it was nice having you, Purpose. Always a delight. You do participate in life, and I think this Christmas I might send you something nice.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you so much. I might send you something nice as well. Who knows?
And to you, Mr. Hedges, it's the first time having you on the live. I hope you do come back. Uh, More at least next week, since we are going to have these type of debates, and it's nice to have people of the same faith but with different views, so that we can correct each other and fact check, so that people don't spread misinformation. But people, until next time,
I will do. I
Cheers.
will. Have a nice day, bro.
bye bye for now.